that was odd. At the very... It's funny, everything ran great up until the point we were about to start. It's like the system itself was doing exactly what we wanted it to do, and then finally, when it was time to launch the program, all of a sudden everything just kind of froze. Guys, I want to thank everyone for coming to the Patron Appreciation Show. We're trying to get more precise with the way we launch and do everything else. That was close, but it kind of failed at the end. That's okay. I'm your host, Jamarl Thomas, and this is my lovely, awesome, amazing, absolutely just as good part of me, my wife, Mrs. Thomas, who's going to assert her name, Aisha Hollingsworth Thomas. This kind of, oh, you're not going to define me, sir. How's it going?
It's okay.
Just okay.
It's nice outside. It's feeling springy. I'm good. I'm not sick today. I have no ailments.
Mrs. Thomas wasn't doing well last week, which is why Mrs. Thomas wasn't here for the Patron Appreciation episode. She felt horrible about that. Like,
then we pushed it back thinking that, I'll be better tomorrow on Monday. That was a fail.
Yeah. It's okay. You're here now.
Pretty drugged up, but I'm good.
And I appreciate you being here
today. Patrick Scarpati, thank you, Patrick, says happy Sunday.
Oh, what's happening, Patrick? Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Do you guys like the countdown? So you know when we're going to start? Give everybody time to get in and
I like, personally,
settled.
I like the countdown.
Well, I know you like it.
Well, I think it works. I think it kind of focuses the mind of sorts. It's like, all right, the show needs to be ready at this very specific, moment. You have 10 minutes, go. And it's like you're kind of in this mad rush to get all the stories and everything else. We start earlier. I follow news all week. And so the stuff that we do in the Patreon Appreciation, I try to find stuff that I haven't necessarily gone over. If it's something that's significant, then yeah, I may want to bring it up because my wife may have a different point of view. Look at your cup. Look at the cup. Look at the cup. That's my
That's
cup.
Your cup.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've also been playing with the green screen stuff. I don't have my thing over here. Like, Conan O'Brien used to have a skit. It was a floating head skit. And he would kind of do this thing where he would be like moving around with his head and everything else. Oh, it was the funniest thing in the world. People, when I brought Winkle on to do the comedy thing, they kept taking that as if it was from Door. That was from Conan O'Brien. If you're going to say I'm copying from somebody, get it right.
Conan O'Brien.
It's Conan O'Brien. When I used to grow up, look. When I used to grow up. Well, you were. Yeah, it was.
When I used to grow up.
Yeah.
You don't grow up anymore?
No, I don't grow up anymore.
Clearly.
Full grown man.
Clearly.
The end of my development. All of us. Doesn't matter who it is. All of us. The only thing that we are is the stuff that we pull from our environment. That's it. There's an aspect of us that's us. Yes. But that's always mingling. So it's hard to kind of make this disassociation. People would say, like, when they're listening to music, that sounds like so-and-so. Yeah, because that person probably grew up listening to so-and-so and incorporated that into who that person was. I find that I do that without even thinking about doing that. Like, it's not something I have to think about doing. It's not intentional. So, like, Maddow, when Rachel Maddow does her opening skits, and she goes, like,
all around
10 minutes, yeah, and then hits a point. Now, personally, I've always loved that. I know some people hate that. Personally, I always used to love that. And people would be like, it's 6 minutes, he hasn't gotten to the point. Right there. That's the influence. Or Oberman, when Oberman would give these, like brutal speeches about Bush, like he's like flipping out, and he's like looking into different cameras. And Saturday Night Live does a really good joke where he was like moving, and then he looks at this camera, and he's like flipping out into various cameras. That's Oberman. When I do that, it's him. It's not something I try to do. It's just something that is. Or Hartman, when Hartman gives these kind of historical, contextual points of view of about a particular issue. Now, Hartman comes to this and says, which means you need to vote Hillary Clinton. That's not the way I come to it. But nevertheless, those influences are there. It's hard to get away from, man. It's hard to get away from. So all right, let's just give the spill about what the Patron Appreciation Show is. I know that's
my goal. That's my bag. All right, so we do a weekly patron or contributor appreciation show. This is it. We take this time, one show a week. He's playing with this mug because it's green, and because the green screen effect is on, it's looking weird to us. I don't know if it looks weird to you. It's some trippy kind of thing that has like, it's doing like weird stuff.
Flag. Look at this, look at this.
It's doing weird stuff. I don't know. It looks like it's going halfway invisible or like transparent.
It's going through me and showing the flag. It's like my body vanishes behind the cup. It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome. That's badass.
All right, so once a week, patron appreciation show comes on Sundays, usually around 1. We put a post out on Thursdays on the patron page and allow patrons to go and submit topic suggestions. So if you are a patron, make sure that you're logging in weekly to see that post, and then you can say, hey, this is what I think you guys should talk about. He takes a look, I take a look, and we pull from those to do today's show. If you are contributing through Streamlabs or PayPal, please be sure to still send your topic suggestions with your donations.
You don't have to
as always, they are appreciated. Well, you know,
there was no period,
they
no
are
comma.
Appreciated as much as patron. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you're contributing somewhere else, please be sure to share your topic suggestion.
Essentially, let us know, right? So we can incorporate them into the show.
And with that thought in mind, so something new, I guess, an announcement for the show.
Yeah. Oh, right. Announcements in the beginning, because we want to give people time to get here. So we're going to have announcements at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show.
So you'll hear this again if you stay the whole way. You might hear it once or twice, so I apologize in advance. But one of the announcements or something new that we're doing is, in an effort to make the exclusive patron content available to people who give on other platforms like Streamlabs or Super Chat, I have created a Facebook page.
I will be helping with that Facebook
for
page,
exclusive content to be posted there. We went kind of back and forth about where to put this, and we'll test it out here. We're not sure if it's going to stay here for forever, but we want to make sure that if you give through PayPal, that you have access to all of the content. Previously, Jamarl was having to like send stuff to people individually.
Yeah.
So if you are giving somewhere else, then you'll need to email us. And we'll send you, or I'll send you the link, because it is a private group and you have to answer a couple questions, and we verify that you know, whatever your information is, your contributor information, and you'll get access. And that way, all of these videos, because one of the things about the Patron Appreciation Show, this show weekly, once it is finished being aired live, it's going to be taken off YouTube and available only to patrons.
Yes.
But if you're giving through Super Chat or PayPal or Streamlabs, you don't have that. And so this is being created in an effort to give you guys access to that as well, because it's essentially contributor appreciation and not just patron appreciation. And so if you're giving and you're interested, email him. The email's in the description box. And we'll send you the link so that you can...
Now, personally, I'm not completely sold on this. I'm far more cynical in this process. I like it's a gateway, right? So it's the thing. My problem with this and I know this is just purely for contributor appreciation, so there's no issue with that part. Like, I don't think there's a conflict.
Yeah, what's your beef, man?
Well, there's a larger issue about where to put the content in the first place. Like, my thinking is I need a website on my own, and the reason I make this case is, YouTube is somewhat of a private corporation, and that private corporation at any point could essentially take down my content, demonetize me, do whatever they want. The rules is going to be interpreted based on what they need, not necessarily because of the rules themselves. Like, meaning there's no higher governing body than YouTube. If YouTube says tomorrow, I'm changing this rule in order to get rid of this particular content, they can do that.
Fall in line. You don't have any way to...
Right. And so even going with this thing of we're going to get rid of your content for something, who do you petition to? I mean, ultimately, you don't even have a person to talk to. You know, this is this kind of God body of sorts that's above it all, and that makes all the decisions. You have no agency within this process other than your channel, to which again is subordinate to the company itself. Your ability to make money in this case is, you know, it's like, hey, come onto this playing field and try to create your company, grow your channel, and by doing so, you make us better also. But at a certain point, the company itself becomes superior to the content that's there, and can make all of the decisions without the content creator having an agency in this process. So there's that. moving the content and putting it on Facebook, you face the same hurdle. Facebook is the same company that was getting rid of companies at the behest of Israel, like sites.
I feel you. You and I had this conversation, and that's why we were trying to figure out what to do with it. A website would be good.
It's like
but in the short term, you guys don't know how much time that he spends in this room, at this desk, in this chair.
No, you know the funny part? The other day I had the Superman shirt on, and I was working all day, and I was working on another channel that night because I wanted to do a video that night specifically because I had the Superman shirt on. I think I'm working all night, and it gets up into that morning, and I'm like, oh fuck, I might as well just start doing the news. And they was like, is that the same shirt? I was like, I haven't been to sleep, and because I haven't been to sleep, it doesn't count as a different day.
This happens all the time.
I can wear this as long as I have
happens all the time. So when we started having a conversation about where to put the content, and I was like, what's quick, what's fast, what's effective? We'll try it here for a little while, and then, you know, as some of his other projects get streamlined, then, you know, we'll look into creating a website. And somebody said, you know, expand your audience. That's great. But when you start kind of doing your own website, you have to, the 21,000 subscribers that are here, you have to kind of maintenance. Tunnel them over to, you know. And
even with that, how do you know? Just because somebody joined your website doesn't necessarily mean they were a contributor. Like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to try to separate those things.
See, Pat Hacker says hosting videos on a private website can get expensive. Right.
Yeah.
That's another thing that he talked about when, you know, when you have hour-long, 2-hour-long videos that you have to house somewhere.
Or even how many I do a day. Like, you know, I do a shitload. I do like 4 or 5 videos a day. There are days where it's like even longer than that. I mean, and some of those videos are like every video I do, sometimes I may cut the video so it may look like 10 minutes, but oftentimes there's still like 10, 15 minutes of interaction with the audience.
So we're going to try out the Facebook platform, long story short. So if you are contributing,
hit us up.
Yep. And we will send you the link to that because, like I said, it is a private group because it is exclusive content. So send that to us, and we'll make sure you get the access because we're going to start dropping those videos in, starting with this one, and then I'll work my way back.
I gotta be honest,
some of the older ones.
The money aspect of this, like, it's like the moment that you turn it into a where you say, all right, I'm going to do this as a living, then there becomes other priorities of, all right, I have to make sure I can feed myself and put roof on the table, which
roof on the table.
I mean, a roof on the roof over your head, which incentivizes you or compels your behavior to some degree. You know. Oh, we were talking about so I use Fiverr sometimes to help with the advertisements and stuff like that. And one of the things on Fiverr, I could see people used to do like advertisements, and I thought to myself, we could do banners. And having a banner from something, but then the question becomes, what's the banner? What's the advertisement? Like if it was for hats, no issue. Like if somebody was a haberdasher and it was like, hey, this guy wears hats all the time, I want to advertise with him on the channel. There's no conflict. It's like haberdashers. I mean, I don't know how prolific the haberdasher lobby is in Congress. So there's that. Or ink pens, where they're like, hey, this guy's holding ink pen all the time.
Flinging ink pens around all day.
It's like, we need to get that guy. Right, we need to get that guy. So even with that, but then you have like the ink pen lobby that is dominant in Congress.
Right, because my thing was once you start advertising, so I don't, you guys probably know, he has mentioned many times, I'm not very political, which is why I'm here to give the less political, non-political ones. But I don't sit around and watch political videos on YouTube. Unfortunately, I am a lot more shallow, and so a lot of my videos are like natural hair videos or makeup videos or like cooking videos or videos. No, I don't really watch cat videos. I don't like cats. Dog videos. I will watch a dog video if it comes up. Whatever. I guess what I'm saying is some of the other
those dog
people,
videos can get pretty
YouTubers, some of the YouTubers that I watch and their influencers run into a lot of problems when they start to advertise this because you're being sponsored by this with this product. Can I trust you? Are you going to tell me that it sucks because you're getting paid to review? You know what I mean? Like that's the problem.
So I run into the problem in a slightly different way though, because it's in their case, it's like, well, you're doing makeup and now you're advertising this makeup. How do we know that your judgment about the makeup is true? Because are you going to really say this makeup sucks if they're giving you money to not say the makeup sucks? If you're a good one,
you will. And I've seen people that'll be like, listen, I got to be honest.
Yeah.
This is shit. I'll never use it again.
But you admit all the incentives in the world.
Right. Are for them. Yeah.
In my case, it's not really that. because it's not, I'm not selling makeup or pins. It's more so political opinion. Like when Cenk Uygur makes the argument that a politician gets $20 million, that politician gets compromised because of the money he gets. And then he would turn around and says, we getting a $20 million investment in no way affects our opinion. It's like, but wait a minute, you just made the argument that the other guy. And he's like, well, it's different. It's an investment. Well, it's an investment that your company needed, right? Well, if true, then does it, Katzenberg is a big political donor. Is it possible that this is a certain degree of political influence? Yeah. Like, how do you make that thing? Yeah. So that's kind of the difference in our case. I don't know how big ink pens or hat thing, would do from just, and we have commercials anyway, but those commercials are random, detached. Yeah. They're not for us. So there might be like an oil company advertising on channels.
But these are the conversations that we have, that we've been having.
Because it's like you have to, I want the show to be able to do things. Like, I want the show to be able to travel to locations. Meaning, if Tulsi Gabbard is going to be in an area, I want to be able to travel to that area. Like, let's say Tulsi Gabbard is in New Mexico. Well, I want to be able to take a trip to New Mexico.
Can I go?
You have work to do.
I'd like to go. I'll be there.
You have other responsibilities. But nevertheless, I guess my point is, I want to be able to do those things. And it's like, it requires a certain leeway above and beyond your own expenses to be able to do those things. And so finding stuff like that, or trying to find funding sources like that, that's the reason for these type of conversations. Well, and that's why Patreon helps also.
Yeah. So if you are not a patron, consider becoming a patron. A contribution as little as $1 a month is all that it takes to be a patron and get exclusive access to the Patreon content. Yeah.
Also, one of the announcements, New Mexico to become the 24th state to decriminalize pot.
To legalize Mary Jane.
Look at this.
That is a pretty marijuana leaf.
Is it?
I guess so. I don't know. I have to be honest. I haven't seen lots of marijuana plants, but it's a very beautiful picture.
There it is.
That you'll be able to see in just a moment. Can you see that? That is a beautiful picture.
I guess between the two of us, I'm the official stoner. That's a good thing. Like,
what, that you're the official stoner, or that they're legalizing marijuana?
Well, me being an official stoner doesn't really mean anything one way or the other. In the grand cosmic scheme of things, nothing really matters, and that doesn't matter either. I guess I'm saying, in this case, it matters to human beings because those people won't get arrested anymore. The state won't be wasting resources on trying to go after these people anymore. And, this obscene hypocrisy that a cop that's an alcoholic, because he's having a hard day or, time of being a cop and he can't take it anymore. And he's like, cutting his wrist and about beating his wife. And so he goes to alcohol and drowns his sorrows in drink. That alcoholic cop can pick up a stoner and lock him up and be real indignant about it. You're breaking the law, son. The guy's a flaming alcoholic. Like, the hypocrisy here is overwhelming. And at no point does the judge say, look, that guy, I know that guy's an alcoholic. Come on, man. We can't, I'm not going to do this. So, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Not to mention, the war on drugs was started, believe it or not, because Richard Nixon was an entire asshole and was politically looking for a way to stop his political opponents, which he considered to be blacks, the civil rights movement,
and
hippies.
Too, yeah.
So his thought was, I can, stop this in one breath. These guys won't be able to vote. That's one thing. And I can get on TV and castigate them in the public light, meaning this group of people are druggies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this other group of people are communists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody knows this.
Killed a couple birds with one marijuana stone.
I guess my point is people know this. They know this. How do you know this? And then turn around and still lock people up over stuff like this. How do you know this and the laws not immediately change? Like, this is, it's, the hypocrisy of this is amazing. Yeah. The hypocrisy of this is amazing. So, congratulations.
To New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Have we ever been to New Mexico? We haven't been to. Put it on the list.
I've never even been to California.
Well, I do know that.
Yeah.
All right, very quickly. Render unto Caesar. Thank you for the super chat.
Unto Caesar. I love that. Render unto Caesar the things that belong to Caesar. Fucking everything. I love that. Sorry. I love the name.
You're good? All right.
I like the name.
Leading us into the next announcement before we begin our topics. Bilal Salam, thank you. Bilal says, more Brexit and Star Trek, please.
You will be getting both of those today. Sorry.
Just use an aggregate site like flavors.me. Mask it with an original URL like progressivesoapbox.com, maybe. That's Bilal. He's talking about.
Say it one more time. Say it again.
He said, just use an aggregate site like flavors.me. Mask it with an original URL like progressivesoapbox.com, maybe. He's talking about continuing the conversation we were having about where to house content in a potential website. So, in that same vein, speaking of Star Trek and more Trekkie content, there's another announcement. So the first announcement was that exclusive content is going to be available on Facebook. The second announcement for the day is dun 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 dun. Do you have your video?
Yes. So take a look at this. I'm not gonna even tell you what this is.
Just watch this.
I'm just gonna say just watch this, and we'll talk about it.
Get all the feels.
After. Hold on. Stop.
What's happening?
Wait.
What's happening?
All right, let's do this. Hold on. Damn it. This.
Right. I visited Taos in 1979. Never smoked anything, though. Just going through the comments while he's doing that.
Visited where?
Garden Gnome, somewhere in New Mexico. Taos, New Mexico, Kurt says. Garden Gnome says go to Ruidoso if you visit New Mexico.
All right. So this is going to only be for patrons, and it's going to go up immediately after, so nobody else is going to know, whoever doesn't see this particular video. But I've been working on a second project, and I like doing sci-fi stuff. I like doing UFO stuff. And I came to the conclusion that I kind of want to have a separate site to just delve into those things, that allows me to delve into those things. So science fiction and reality, meaning these are things that are not real, and asking questions like, what does this mean? Like, what does it mean in a political sense, and even in somewhat of a philosophical sense, for Superman to take all the nuclear weapons and throw them into the sun? And what do you honestly believe that the governments of the world would do? Not the propaganda thing that was put out in that movie. That's a propaganda piece. But reality. What do you honestly believe that the United States would do in a situation like that? Or Russia would do in a situation like that? This was during the Cold War. Like, get into what does that mean for Superman to do that? Where does that end? Or going into questions like Star Trek. You know, like, what's the philosophy of Star Trek to some degree? Meaning, what does society look like for Picard to see a being with godlike abilities and just asks, what sort of being are you, as opposed to looking at him in reverence? And Discovery touches on some of the stuff. Like, I like to delve into these issues of what does it mean? Even UFO stuff. And this is kind of my point of, it's not just sci-fi, it's also what is taking place here and now in regards to our politics. And how that politics is going to be changed if the UFO issue becomes even more prevalent prevalent than what it is. I mean, on CNN, you had what's her name asking, are we being visited? And a guy who literally just stepped out of a black budget program saying, yes. That's mainstream. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, what are the reasons behind it and everything else? So I like delving into these type of questions, including visiting, like, haunted houses, like in an investigative capacity. Like, is it real? Delving into all of that stuff. Kind of in this kind of a mesh of, you know, not being overly skeptical, by the same token, looking at it in the same way I look at the political stuff. You know, what's real, and how do you try to come up with some measurement of what's real, even if it is beyond what we consider it to be the confines of normality. Like, it's almost an investigative role in addition to just all of this other philosophical schoolboy philosophy. So take a look at this. Yes, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Let's see that again. I want to see that again. See it again.
This is the play button, dude.
That is coming up. Like, it takes a little bit more.
So if you didn't know that the new channel's name is going to be the Black Box.
Yes, that is exactly.
Going to house all of this content. Someone said, "Is that a Star Trek Yes, it is. He's got on the expendable shirt. Pat Hacker, nice catch.
The character, the red suit is always expendable. That's like when you look at who's going down, beaming down to the planet on the Star Trek, the original series, the guy with the red shirt is always going to be the one that gets it. It's like, nah, dog, I'm not beaming on this platform. Screw this, man. I'm not going down. Did you see, there's a Robot Chicken episode, I think it's Robot Chicken, where they were about to beam down to the planet, and the guy in the red shirt says, yeah, screw this, man. Fuck this. I'm not doing this. And he takes the gun and shoots the other characters around him going down to the planet. Oh, God, I love it. Yeah. All right, so let's get to the news. Let's get to the news.
Okay.
Because we're fucking around.
Yeah.
All right, so for the first story, Brexit. What does Brexit means? Who knows? Because
nothing.
Up until this point, well, it means something. Right now, it means Theresa May's government is going to collapse. It means that they may have an election. It means that Britain is going to be enduring some hard times. And it also means that right now, the European Union is very pissed at them and crossed at them because they've been negotiating something for 2 years. For 3 years, and it's all gone to pot. So, right now, Jesus fucking Christ, what is going on with this? Come on. All right, there we are. I don't know if we have too many things up, but one of these pages is doing way too much.
Computer.
All right, so let's flip this over to display. All right, so just to give a preview, just in case somebody wasn't here for all of my other 30 shows on Brexit, the British public had enough, and they say we're leaving the European Union. Now, believe it or not, their woes are not entirely the European Union's, but just like Trump in the United States, just like Bolsonaro in Brazil, just like the Five-Star Movement in Italy, you can even say Syriza in Greece, all of these societies are under a certain degree of pressure, and these societies express that pressure in ways that are not necessarily in the direct pathway of the thing that's exerting pressure. In this case, this came out in the form of Brexit. Theresa May, just a slight historical thing, calls a snap election. This is when Jeremy Corbyn first took office, because she thought that Jeremy Corbyn was a pushover. He wouldn't be able to popular with the public. Kind of like in the United States of, oh, that guy's a radical. The public will never be on board with it. Oh my God, the public's on board with it. That type of stuff. And so that snap election, the Conservative Party loses their majority. And she's dependent upon a fringe party called the DUP in order to prop up her government. Now, this means that her ability to get Brexit done has worsened, not strengthened.
Yeah.
So now Jeremy Corbyn comes out that election sitting pretty, strutting like a peacock, has a new personality and everything else in this case, and for the most part, is taking the position on Brexit of, look, this is the government's issue. The Conservative Party called this. The Conservative Party is going to hold the bag on this. We're not participating. Now, they can't say that. So what he says is, we have a 7-point program that needs to be, before us to agree with the Prime Minister. But the entire point of it is to not agree. So the Prime Minister spends 2.5 years, comes up with a deal, a withdrawal bill, and Parliament rejects it in historic numbers. Her own party rejects it in historic numbers. She first withdraws the vote, which is embarrassing, waits another month to try to get concessions, doesn't get those concessions, fails. She brings the exact same bill back with one point of saying, look, I'm going to go to the UK. I'm going to go to European Union to get concessions. Even though I couldn't do this for the past 2 years,
here we go.
I'm going to do it again. European Union says, kick rocks. Kick rocks. Every 27 member state comes on a camera in their respective languages and tells Theresa May, kick rocks. Theresa May goes back to the UK with nothing. And of course, it gets voted down in historic measures again. Not historic measures, but it gets voted down again. Burkow comes and says, look, you cannot bring this vote back for a third time. You're not going to be able to continuously bring the vote back over and over and over and over and over again until you get the vote that you want. Parliament has said no. And all of this with the ticking clock of Brexit, meaning they're supposed to leave on March 29th, I believe, out of the European Union. Meaning, with this ticking clock, she's still being told no. Parliament is saying no, they're deadlocked. She says, all right, On the day that they were supposed to be leaving the European Union, she says, I'm going to try to get something through Parliament. So I'm going to remove what we're going to be like after. Meaning, I'm going to remove the relationship out of the bill. Now, this is nonsense. You're not supposed to be able to do this, but she did it. Meaning, we're going to leave the European Union, but we're not going to have any idea what that's going to look like after we leave. Now, this is, of course, nonsense. She's not even going to be prime minister afterwards because she's decided to throw herself on a sword. And the joke was Theresa May threw herself on her own sword and missed because they still voted her down after that. It
didn't even work.
Didn't even work. On the day they were supposed to leave the European Union, they were voted. So Parliament gave them a short extension. But Parliament, the European Union made the point that if you can't get this through Parliament, we're not giving you any more extensions because we don't see the point of giving you an extension. So Theresa May is now desperate. And desperate Theresa May.
What's she doing now?
Goes to Jeremy Corbyn and begs. Please, dog. I'm willing to make concessions.
Dog?
That's what she says. Please, dog. She gets on camera. Please, dog. I need you, dog. Help me. I can't get this through. Because the fact of the matter is she can't get it through. They're like her own party is against it. Now, understand what's taking place. You have the public that is like 49-51 for Brexit. And so you have Parliament that to some degree reflects the public. And so now people are like, well, you need to throw it back to the public. She goes and says, if you don't vote for my bill, I'm going to have a snap election. Now, she knows that in the snap election, the Tories are going to get wiped out. Her party is like, fuck that. Yeah. Because she knows, that party knows that she's threatening us with the snap election. She's threatening us with the Jeremy Corbyn government. She's weaponizing Jeremy Corbyn to try to get her party to do Brexit. They still are like, no, because they can at this point vote her down for even trying to have the snap election in the first place. So now she goes to Jeremy Corbyn, cornered, help me make this work. I'm willing to give concessions. She has this speech. Her party says, fuck that. Meaning, her party is not allowing her to make any concessions, even though she's gone to Jeremy Corbyn asking him for help. And the Tory activists go on strike and donations just dry up. Meaning, just like in the United States, where they say we will cut our cash off, Tory activists go on strike and donations dry up as Theresa May woos Jeremy Corbyn in Brexit talks. If you work with Jeremy Corbyn, we're going to cut our donations off. Doesn't it remind you of Klobuchar? If you guys keep saying this millionaire billionaire stuff, we're going to shut our wallets. He literally said that on MSNBC. So let's go to this one. May's compromise talks with Corbyn hit snag as she asked for Brexit extension. But again, they told her they're not going to give her an extension on Brexit unless they can get something through Parliament. Talks on a compromise Brexit plan between Prime Minister Theresa May of Britain and opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn hit a snag on Friday, just as May sought a nearly 2-month delay in the deadline for leaving the European Union. Labour leader said Mrs. May has so far refused to budge from her original plan, but the government said it was still prepared to propose changes. Prepared to? I mean, at this point, you guys are about to crash out the European Union. They leave on April 12th. Whether they have a deal or not, they leave on April 12th. Let's just be clear on that. What's Brexit? Nobody knows. But they leave on April 12th. What's today? April 6th?
April 7th.
April 7th, all right. The developments illustrated the challenges confronting the leaders and reaching an agreement for Britain's withdrawal, with both May and Corbyn facing difficulties within their parties if they compromise. News of the deadlock came on the same day Mrs. May asked for the second extension for her deadline departure to June 30th. The original March 29th deadline has been extended once. April 12th is 1 week away. This is not good. And let's be very clear. All of the incentives in this are, from the standpoint of Corbyn and Labour, is to not help Theresa May and let her flounder and fail.
Have we heard anything from Corbyn in response to all of her begging and pleading?
He said, yeah. Corbyn, look, this is politics at this point. This is what we're talking about. And this is rank politics. This is, I need to shape perceptions of the public, which means I need to at least act in certain ways. Like, Theresa May needs a deal. She wants a deal and all this other stuff. By the same token, she's a Tory, which means she wants some advantage for her party afterwards. By the same token, she has two factions in her party. One part that wants to remain, one part that wants to leave. Right. She has to meld these two. And up to this point, she hasn't told anybody no. Like, she hasn't told one side, no, I'm going with this other side. Because that side can still vote against her and prevent her from doing it. Meaning she's trying to have a deal. There's no way to do the deal. She needs Corbyn and she needs Labour to assist her to get it over the finish line. Corbyn, in this case, doesn't want to do that. Corbyn doesn't even want to be in the European Union, but has to take the position that he has to fight to some deal. And understand what I mean. Jeremy Corbyn is part of the Tony Benn's legacy. He wasn't for being within the European Union. Jeremy Corbyn, all things being equal, is not for being within the European Union. That said, he doesn't have a choice. Meaning, even though he may be okay with Brexit, he can't be okay with Brexit. Like, he has to take the position of, all right, we got to leave. Ugh, that sucks that we have to leave, but I'm going to do what the public says and leave, even though I don't want to leave, but I really do want to leave because I can't give up. It's unclear on whether or not Jeremy Corbyn can even enact his agenda within the confines of the European Union. He may pretend as if he doesn't, that he has to leave and everything else, but he knows that leaving allows him an opportunity to do what he wants to do. So that's the first point. The second point is he needs her government to collapse. He needs her either to call a snap election or for that government to collapse. And so he can't help her. But the public is looking at this, and if it looks like he's doing anything that makes Brexit or a hard deal Brexit, which is something that the public doesn't want, then he gets a penalty for it. So he doesn't have a choice. Politically, he has to say, I am perfectly okay with working with the prime minister, when in reality it's, yeah, I'm working with the prime minister. It's like he has all of the incentives. All of this is on the head of the Tory party. The Tory party called it. The Tory party called this other stuff. And Theresa May has made bad choices. They call her incompetent and everything else, but Theresa May was trying to force her deal, believing that if it's between a no-deal Brexit and my deal, they would be forced to choose my deal, which is why she's waiting to the end, like 2 days before Brexit. It's like, all right, let's have this vote. Like the politics are not great in this, and the politics doesn't necessarily serve to the higher interests of Britain. It just serves to the highest interests of, the various parties. It's fascinating, man. I mean, I love this. This is fascinating politics. Because even the European Union even has their politics. Meaning, of course, the European Union doesn't. What's wrong with that? What's going on in the background? What's this? That wasn't there before. Is that what that is?
Just some of the comments.
That's exactly what that is. That looks so bizarre.
I just said that. We're having weird tech stuff going on. Fred Edwards said, someone should tell Theresa May, no matter how much you play with it, it will not get longer. Why did I ran into that one. I thought he was saying something else. I fucked myself on that. Okay, Fred.
Oh, man, that's funny.
I was like, oh, there's some good comments here.
Play with it all you want, but it won't get longer, Theresa
No, that
May.
one.
That's funny.
Bilal Salam says, and oh my, the freaking Tory defectors. Scarves all day like British hijabs.
Yeah.
Brexit is an example of the dysfunctional British Parliament to do the will of the people in the UK.
No, it's not.
That's
it is kind of, but what's the will of the people? Like, when you get a vote like 40, 51, 49, what does that mean? Like, and you could say maybe this is the limits of Parliament in itself. This is the limits of people who are working in the interest that is not in the best interest of the public itself. You could say those things, but that's not just Parliament. Like, do you honestly believe that the governments of the world are somehow better? Like, there may be some that are moderately different, but all of these people are just working on the incentives of the system that they're in. So it's like, yes, Labour has every interest to work in his in this way, because that's his job. His job is to win because he believes that he can move the country in a different direction if he's in power. So what is he supposed to do with that? Is he supposed to not do that? Is he supposed to work with Theresa May if he thinks that Theresa May is not have the best interest of Britain at heart? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the best interest is always out of reach. But it's always out of reach because everybody's incentives are different in regards to what they're trying to accomplish. Look, I want the Tories out of power. Full stop. And even though I don't necessarily want a hard deal Brexit for Britain, Britain will reorganize itself. Like, there's always an adjustment of sorts. Britain has like the 5th largest economy, and we're to believe that the 5th largest economy is not
gonna bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I like it, but
just a couple more comments before we move on.
Go for it.
So Peter Vandershoor says the EU should use this opportunity to look critically at itself and make some real choices.
Agreed.
Like how to deal with lobbyists.
Agreed. And agency for the countries. I mean, like, part of the issue that these people are having disagreements with is countries being able to be countries. Now, to be fair, though, the European Union was only supposed to be like a trading relationship. It expanded to be almost like a governing body But the origins of it was supposed to be like trade between various countries. It's grown, and then the question becomes like, some of these guys are unelected. Yeah. You know, and they would say, well, I mean, you kind of did elect them because the people that you elected then elected them. Like, what? It's like you have a third form election process. Believe it or not, we were like that at one point. The United States was like that at one point. We didn't used to elect like the leaders in that way. We used to have the people who were elected then go and elect somebody else. Or if it was like either the House of Representatives or the Senate chose a president or something. But we used to be that way. But they have changes that need to be made at the European Union. That's putting it mildly. Yeah. All right. Anything you want to say on this story?
No, I'm good. I like reading the comments because, you know, I'm not... The British politics is not my...
It's not your bag?
Not my cup of tea.
You've been to Britain, though.
I have, but I...
You stayed in your phone booths?
I did all of that.
Did you screw with the guard who's standing there? Or you didn't have the balls to do that?
No. So, where I went, it was so far away. Like... Oh. He was behind the gate. There were no guards in the front of the gate.
I see.
Like, I would have gotten shot if I was trying to. Like, no, you would have had to bust through the well,
they would have beat you. No, they would beat you over the head.
I don't know, clubbed me.
They would have clubbed the shit out of you. I don't
know. But in front
of this dark, they tried to attack the prime minister.
In front of the palace, there's the gate, and then there's like a courtyard, and then there's the guards.
Yeah. Right
in front of the building. But there's no guards on the outside of the gate.
What were we when we were fucking with the guard? Was that?
That was Greece. That was in Greece. Yeah.
It was like standing by the guard. I always feel self-conscious doing that because I always like just at one point the guy's gonna just reach out and like, you know, I thought he was going for my gun. It's like, you knew goddamn well he wasn't offering a gun.
Yeah, Chinty says screwing with the guards seems so rude. I've been there twice and never done that.
It does feel rude, but everybody does it. It becomes like a tradition, right? I mean,
well, I remember in Greece, I couldn't bring myself to really like fuck with the guards, so I just like went next to them and took a picture.
Yeah, that me too. And
even though I wanted to do something like really.
There was a black guard at when I was in the UK. I was doing that. I think we were at Windsor Palace or something like that, though. But it was it was a black guard, not African American. It was a black guard.
Cozy 3, you missed the announcement. He wants to know you're going to do the Alien Channel. He wants to know if you're going to do the Alien Channel. We did the announcement at the beginning of the show, Cozy 3. We'll do the announcement again towards the end, but the answer to that is yes. No, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. Okay. We got to stay on task. Someone said I should be your engineer. I don't know what the hell that means, but it means keeping you on task. I am all about that life. So yes, we do a couple announcements about that life in the beginning and the end. I'm like the time stickler. So I like to be like, all right, keep on pace. We need to do X, Y, Z.
I'm the word stickler. That word not real. Stickler. Is that right? Stickler. I'm a stickler for time. Well, whatever. All right.
I don't know. We're gonna move on.
So we're gonna move on then. All right. So Anna and Tulsi Gabbard, like, no filter. I love that. Anna and Tulsi Gabbard. I personally don't like Anna. Even when I used to watch TYT, she was my least favorite. It has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has everything to do with her being Anna. You know, to come out and say, I don't respect Trump supporters or women who voted for Trump is problematic because your candidate lost. I remember when during the election part, she was fully for Bernie. She was like, I can't bring myself to vote for Hillary Clinton. And then halfway through, it's like, I can't believe people are not voting for Hillary Clinton. It's like that, you know, and fair enough. Everybody had their evolution on that particular issue, so fair enough. I'm also bothered by the fact that she's Armenian under the TYT banner. That bugs me. And I don't necessarily bring that up constantly, but forgive me.
Gotta wonder.
If it was a show called, you know, let's say The Klansman, and
I worked on it.
And you worked on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to find something that's commensurate with it. And Klan didn't even commit a genocide. Let's say the Nazis. Or let's say the Reich. Let's call it the Third Reichs. And
that's problematic.
And somebody who's Jewish is sitting under the channel called the Third Reichs. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get something that's commensurate to it. It's not something I continually bring up because stuff of race and culture and all that stuff gets a little dicey. But I'm sorry, I look at the world through my own lens. And through this lens, to some degree, even though I try to kind of be above it all and be on the moon and everything else, I have a bee in my bonnet about black Republicans. I can't get past it. I grew up with that bee in my bonnet. And to some degree, it translates in a similar sense, where it feels like you're supporting something, either in name or
that directly goes against your best interests, is insulting,
or that did something to people like you with this kind of grand statement. And that always bugs me. It always gets me. And by the way, this isn't just me. If the Young Turks weren't the Young Turks, if they were something else, they've gone after Washington Redskin owner, saying that the guy just wanted to keep the money and just wanted to keep the namesake. They've gone after, what's his name for Niggerhead Ranch, Rick Perry. They've gone after all of these people with no sense of hypocrisy at all, saying that guy needs to change his name, that guy's doing this for the money, that guy blah, blah, blah. You're named after something that committed the genocide. Are you fucking kidding me? But they say this without the hint of irony. Oh, Rick Perry is part of Niggerhead Ranch. Oh, wag the head. You should have changed that name, Rick Perry. Fuck out of here. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anna and Tulsi Gabbard. Anna did a video where she went after Tulsi Gabbard. I don't necessarily care because I don't watch Anna's show. But people were bothered by this immensely. Now, if you remember, and I think the thesis and the thing that, from my reading of it, that people were really pissed off about was this notion that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't a progressive. Like the idea that Anna is God of progressives and she is the one that can give proclamations on who and who is not. Hey, I have a proclamation. If you supported Hillary Clinton, maybe you're not a progressive. Hey, I'll go further. If you were pushing the Russiagate nonsense, you're not a progressive. I mean, anybody can set some arbitrary standard that they want somebody to live up to or live down to, and say that this person doesn't meet the level of progressiveness. It's nonsense. TYT is not the bearer of who is not. And that's the first point. And that's the main point. People, and Tulsi goes on the show. And Cenk Uygur asks Tulsi every negative question that he could think to ask Tulsi Gabbard. And you would think to yourself that even though Anna wasn't the one that was doing the interview, any question that Anna wanted to know, she could have just passed over to Cenk. Yeah. I mean, Cenk spent like 40 minutes asking every negative question in the book that he could think of. What's your beef? It's like, what's your complaint?
What else did you want?
What else did you want? It's like, what else did you want from me? Does this entertain you?
Is this not why you're here?
Is this not why you're here? So apparently, people said Anna was running away from Tulsi. And apparently some of the audience members said that she was scared of Tulsi, which is why she didn't do the interview. So Anna comes out and gives a secondary thing of saying, it wasn't me that was scared, it was Tulsi that was scared. And she was running away and she didn't want to talk to me. I have no idea if what Anna is saying here is true. Gotta be honest, and I don't even particularly care. But I do want to talk about what she's saying here. So let's listen to her response to this, and let's talk about it after.
There was a lot of anger regarding my segment last week on Democratic presidential candidate and Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. A number of her supporters accused me of smearing Gabbard after I brought up her voting record and past statements in support of the war on terror. So I want to make a few things clear. It is not my job to participate in political pageantry, even if I'm inclined to agree with most of the policy proposals of the politician in question. It's also not my job to smear candidates. For me, to smear someone, I would have to make things up about them. Considering the various examples I presented of Representative Gabbard sharing her views in her own words on cable news shows, it's pretty obvious that I haven't made anything up. It's normal and also responsible to look into someone's record as they're running for president and share thoughts, opinions, and concerns in response. I did that with Joe Biden on this show. I've done the same with Kamala Harris, Kristen Gillibrand, and other candidates on TYT's main show. Regardless of my critiques, I've never received the type of backlash I did when covering Gabbard. Not only do I stand by my reporting and analysis, I condemn any attempt to silence me when it comes to any politician.
I don't know if they were silencing her. They were criticizing her. And it just so happens to be a lot of people who watch TYT, right? I mean, you have, what, 4 million people in your audience. And you go after one of the candidates. And let's say one person says, I dislike that. And let's just say that person is replicated in a lot of people because they dislike what you were saying. And of that, a percentage of them say, hey, we don't like what you were saying about Tulsi Gabbard. It's not so much that they're trying to silence you. It's just each of them have a particular opinion. There's a lot of them. But let's keep going. I want to hear it finish.
Although I would have loved to ask Gabbard about the issues raised in my previous episode of No Filter, I was informed by her camp that I would not be part of the interview she had with TYT last Friday. It was surprising and a very surprising demand, considering no other candidate had done the same, regardless of how critical I've been about their positions in the past. I've said multiple times that true leaders put themselves in uncomfortable positions when it's the right thing to do. And answering the questions I had was the right thing to do. Cenk Uygur conducted a great interview, and I highly recommend you all check out the full conversation on TYT's YouTube page. But to set the record straight for those who think I ran from that interview, understand that I was in the same room watching as it took place.
I don't care either. Like, I guess she's gotten into this back and forth with Nico House over this. And they've been kind of, I guess, popping off. Now, from my own perspective on this, in a political sense, you don't punch down. You don't elevate an issue if the issue doesn't need to be elevated. Meaning, if I have a platform of 1 million people and somebody with 20,000 said something to me, why on earth am I going to elevate the person with only 20,000 subscribers? My 1 million don't even know that that guy exists. And if I am elevating him, the only thing that can come from that elevation is the person is elevated to the level. Meaning, there are going to be some people who listen to that and be like, that guy's right. So some probabilistic amount is going to end up going to that particular person. Okay. The people who know both of you aren't going anywhere. Meaning, I guess my point is there's a no win in that situation. Now, is it possible for you to completely extinguish the career of the individual if both of you are within the same record set? Yes. But if you are not, then you are not doing yourself any favors. So, just personal advice on that particular point. Look, Tulsi, I don't understand this issue here. Yes, there's some people who might say Anna ran from the conversation, and I can understand that will get under your craw. It's like, I didn't fucking run from that conversation. She just wouldn't have the conversation with me. But I don't understand. Certainly, Tulsi knows that Cenk Uygur works with Anna, and certainly she knows that they will probably collaborate on the questions that are being asked. For the interview. Yeah, it's not a situation where Cenk Uygur, in and of himself, by himself, is coming up with these questions. I would imagine that this is going to be somewhat of a collaborative effort. She's standing in the room. Are you telling me that Cenk Uygur didn't watch the piece that you did on this? And even if he didn't watch that piece, are you telling me that you didn't say, hey, Cenk, hey, big boy, rubbing his tummy a little bit? Ooh. Can you ask her some questions? I'm joking. There's always a running joke that them two have something going on between each other because they've known each other for so long. Who knows? He said, I would imagine his wife hates that. I mean, think of that for a moment. If there was a co-host that was attractive, and I've worked with that co-host for, let's say, 10, 15 years, and the audience kind of is like, are them two messing around with one another? And maybe you even known her longer than you've known your wife. And your wife comes into the picture, sees you work at all of these long nights, sees you go on all of these tour dates, like back and forth between, MSNBC, like the different things. Because at one point he was traveling back and forth constantly. And it's possible Anna was traveling with him. Oh, that would burn, man. That would burn. Honestly, if that was you, I would have probably divorced you by now.
If I was running around with
some security guard, yes. Yes. Or I'm sorry, if you were running around with a guy like that. I don't think I'm overly untrusting, but that would great.
Just punch her in the vagina and move on.
Yeah, that would great. That would great on my thing.
Very quickly, I have to read the super chat from I Am Siler. Siler wants to know, dun dun dun. It's a super chat, I have to read it. Siler says, Jamarl, do you still refuse to call Cenk dishonest? He says you wouldn't call Cenk dishonest.
Yeah, I've done videos because some people have said, I've always said, I don't necessarily think his intentions are negative, if that makes sense. Like, Like, my argument has always been, I don't necessarily look, personally, when I used to watch the show, Cenk was my favorite character on the show. He's like, I like a certain degree of assertiveness, especially in politics. And I like that assertiveness in the sense of, I need to do something. I don't necessarily want to sit here and wring my hands. I want to do something. Right. So I appreciate that aspect of myself when I see that in Cenk. Dishonest though, like, I don't have a specific example of dishonesty.
What about the Russiagate stuff?
Question is, does he believe it?
I mean, but what is he saying about it now that he was?
Well, right. That's the back and away stuff. That's the catch.
Is that dishonest?
Is that dishonest? I think that's dishonest. Yes, I do think that part is dishonest. I mean, because there are other parts, like he conflated it so much, and now he's like, I wasn't part of that crowd, man.
It's like, wait a minute, let me go.
Wait a minute, I just showed video where you said, but that's why they influenced the election. Like, that part, yes. But I've always made this case that says I didn't necessarily think Cenk was working for bad ends. And, you know, like, I don't, like, for example, when Paul Ryan is doing his thing in Congress, Paul Ryan is working for the corporations. Paul Ryan is a corporation. Right. He goes out and says he's a Catholic while the same token highlighting somebody who's an atheist because of the ideology that the person had. He's working for bad ends. When Klobuchar comes out and says, you know, if you mention millionaire, billionaire, shut my wallet, well, he's working for bad ends. He's working purely for his own self and for his own self-aggrandizement. Trying to push the country to the left. I would agree with this. TYT is a propaganda outlet, just like MSNBC. All of these things are their own publicists of sorts. But dishonest. Like, I need specific instances of dishonesty. And dishonest assumes that he knows that he's absolutely lying in that process. That's, you know. Give me a specific example. Now,
the consensus is that, yeah.
The answer is yes. I mean, my audience thinks yes. My audience thinks entirely yes. My audience thinks yes. So, like, my audience is like, yes, that asshole's. Of course, that asshole's dishonest.
No question there.
Yeah, they don't have a question on it. The Russia stuff, the question becomes, did he believe that Russia did influence it? Like, did he, like, some of these people, I have a hard time knowing, do they believe it or are they pushing it? Sometimes it's hard for me to tell.
Either way, people are using it.
Yeah, they're using it either way for political ends.
Yeah, they're trusting TYT and all these other people as their news source, and they're...
Well, it's a political body. Like, let's be very clear. Like, I remember when they first came out and said they were doing Justice Democrats, my thought was, well, wait a minute, you're calling yourself a news entity. Source, yeah. How do you mail that? And when you talk to somebody like Elizabeth Warren and you're playing footsies, and you talk to somebody like Tulsi Gabbard and you have the most skeptical interview that a person could have, well, I look at that and be like, well, wait a minute. Is Anna going to have this exact same video about Elizabeth Warren? Or is Elizabeth Warren is taking corporate money? Elizabeth Warren is waffling on Medicare for all? Elizabeth Warren? No! She never had that video. She never had that video. It's not... Look, man, it's not so much that people take issue. Like, my issue with the TYT interview with Tulsi Gabbard wasn't that I thought Cenk was being... Like, that anything he asked her was wrong, per se. But she's supposedly a lefty. She buys almost entirely into the ideology that you're pushing with, a caveat here or there. And she gets on, and instead of being a safe harbor for you to expand into certain areas, yes, ask her the skeptical stuff because you want to hold her accountable, fair enough. But leave enough room in the interview for her to expand upon what she wants to see in the world, what she wants militarily, what she wants the United States' role in the world to be. Expand in these areas. There's no other candidate that is pushing this specific level of perspective. You have her. She's sitting there. You can ask all the questions in the world. Ask her those questions. If you want to be critical of some, yes, do it. You can give her a certain degree of skepticism while simultaneously allowing her room to expand into what she wants to do from the standpoint of policy. That's my only issue with the interview. I don't have this belief that Anna couldn't tell Cenk, hey, could you ask her this or that?
Right.
I just don't. And I don't believe that there's ever going to be...
And she's so adamant about how she was, even from afar, involved in the interview. Yeah. I was right there in the room.
I was right there in the room.
We discussed,
I was right there in the room. I wasn't running from anybody. So, and then you have this other part
I would not be silent.
Yeah, I would not be silent. You're not silencing me, man. Me don't think the lady protests far too much. And the last part. You never do it about Elizabeth Warren. Like, yes, you were critical of Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is essentially a corporate Democrat. So that's
what does she call her, Kamala?
Kamala, yeah. You're critical of Joe Biden, yes, because Joe Biden is essentially a corporate Democrat.
Creepy Joe.
Creepy Joe. Not to mention, I wonder, did Joe put his hands on Anna?
Ugh.
Do you think he might have? I mean, he wouldn't let Hillary Clinton go. Did you see that video? He was hugging the Clinton. And Clinton, at this point, has been doing politics for a long time, and she knows how to deal with men who might be a little touchy. And she's like,
what the fuck is happening?
she was doing that to Joe Biden. She kept doing it over and over again. She was like, let me go, Joe. Get your hands off me, Joe.
Calling the police.
Yeah. All right, so anything you want to say about the Anna Tulsi thing?
No, I'm over it.
I don't care about this.
On.
And this is one of those things where it's like, okay, this is some, a little drama in the lefty part. Her and Nico gets into a fight, so what?
I never really cared for Anna. She's not my cup of tea. Yeah, somebody said spousal abuse. I'm glad we got that on camera. You just fucking randomly hit me. No, I don't have anything to add to this. I don't really care about Anna.
All right.
That might be kind of...
I would love for Tulsi... I just want something basic. I want an interview with Tulsi that expands into what... There's a philosophy at work. And there has to be an expectation of what do you believe the outcome of your policy shift is going to be? Because she is talking about a significant policy shift. If you pull back those military bases, what do you think is going to happen within the rest of the world? Like, it's like just because I give you a choice doesn't mean people are going to make the right choice. There was an episode of Rick and Morty where she was like, you can't just take the agency of these people on the planet. And then she gives the agency back and allows them to make the choices, and they end up in a war over the tits versus the non-tits. She says like some had nipples, some didn't have nipples, and they end up fighting and killing each other over it. And it was like, look, just because you give people a choice doesn't necessarily mean the choice they're going to make is right. Just saying. But no, I'm fascinated by her policies, though, because she's talking about closing military bases. She's essentially saying, look, we're going to not continue to be an imperial nation, and we're going to focus those powers inside. What does it mean for other countries that saw the United States as an imperial nation? What does it mean for other countries that may say, look, while the United States is pulling back, we need to expand because we know that the United States is going to pull back again, meaning distrust based on previous action. And with that, bring us into conflict with other nations that try to, let's say, spread their wings while the United States is in a pattern of backing away. Like, I'm fascinated by these topics. Just because the United States make a choice doesn't necessarily mean that that choice is going to remain in effect forever. And it doesn't necessarily mean that other countries that have been, let's say, in our targets won't try to do things in order to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I'm fascinated by these conversations. But these are not the conversations they have with Tulsi.
No.
You used to be anti-gay. Yes. You're standing beside this guy. I mean, I'm not saying that the picture of you standing beside the guy is a bad thing, but I mean, the picture of you standing beside the guy, I mean, they gave you a welcome mat. Look at that type of stuff. Steve Bannon loves you. Steve Bannon is I can't control what Steve Bannon says, but he really loves you. Then why are you saying this? Why are you acting this way? Why are you bringing these questions up? You never put these got yous on Elizabeth Warren or any of these other characters. 40-minute interview of hit pieces. But I was in the room. Tulsi Gabbard didn't allow me to answer questions. It's like, come on, dog. Let's be honest.
All right.
Student loan forgiveness. This is yours.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
I've said my piece.
All right, so we're just under 300 people while he brings up my article.
Not just brings up, I'm already there.
I'm going to do the patron spiel.
I'm there, baby.
So thank you guys for coming. We had a couple announcements this morning at the start of the show, which we'll cover again at the end, about a new Facebook exclusive members only kind of group. I did check the P.O. box. I forgot to say this earlier. I did yesterday or Thursday, and I did not see anything in the P.O. box.
I'm always fascinated by the P.O. box because that means that there's a certain amount of energy that somebody had that says, I love this enough that I'm going to send him something. You're looking for the book?
Nope.
Oh. Well, I got a book that I've been reading from Cyril Sanchez, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
That book is amazing. That book is amazing. Like, I was, as you're reading through the book goes into, like, I always make this argument. And I love it when somebody who's just as bright as me but has been educated, like let's say PhD level in this type of stuff, comes up with the same argument and comes to the same conclusion. And he kind of makes this point that says...
Validating.
Yeah, it's like a validating experience. And he makes this point that, look, we're an evolutionary species. And in evolving, this is not just mental. I mean, this is not just physical. This is also psychological. Like some of the traits that we find that we have that we are like, God, these traits are a pain in the ass. Those are traits that are also have evolved with us over time. And not just evolved with us, but have been not a fluke, but an active ingredient in how we evolved. It's like gossip. Like this ability to say, you know, because oftentimes you have tribes, and depending on how the size of the tribe and everything else is like the leader. Well, you need to be able to have a way of disseminating information. You don't have television, you don't have Twitter, you don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And in that case, word of mouth, gossip, was a way of disseminating information through the various people, and a way for leaders to dominate to some degree. Like, you talk about this particular person, and so people have a certain impression of this particular guy. So this guy has a certain charisma that can keep the group together. It wasn't necessarily the one who can fight the best. It was the person who had the ability to keep the group together that was considered to be the alpha, the leader.
Yeah, the leader.
The book is fascinating, man. But it gets into gossip. It gets into cranium capacity, like why the brains are smaller. Like the brains are smaller because, for the most part, if the brains are that large, it consumes so much energy and oxygen that everything that was done had to be just purely for the brains.
Again? It's not Homo sapiens. Is it The History of Homo Sapiens?
The History of Homo Sapiens, I think. Yeah, it's a good book. Yeah.
So, as I was saying before,
shout out to Show. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you to everybody who sends to the post office box. Of course, this is our patron appreciation, our contributor appreciation weekly show. We send a reminder out to patrons in the patron platform to submit topic suggestions every Thursday, and then we pull from those topic suggestions and add to those to do today's content. You can always support through Patreon, PayPal, Streamlabs, Super Chat,
P.O. Box,
all that good stuff. Yeah. But also, if you did not know, in every video down in the description box is the P.O. Box in case you want to send. We get letters.
Yeah, we get some of everything. One guy said, "Come to Jesus."
Advertisement stuff. Yeah, somebody else was like,
"Come to Jesus."
I don't know what this is about, but it was.
I read it. Those books are awesome, man. Yeah. I used to like those books. I remember those. We used to get those books sometimes, like with Jehovah's Witnesses. We used to drop them off, and they would like knock on the door.
Under the door.
Yeah, I knew this guy who the guy wasn't right in the head, but he opens the door completely butt naked. It was like, I want you guys to teach me about Jesus. Now,
do you stay? Are you committed? And
how
do
committed
you stay
are you? Right.
And have that conversation.
Like literally stark naked and says, I need you to teach me about Jesus. He says, I want to learn about Jesus. Come on in and teach me. Like he's like this.
Did he invite them in too?
I don't. I think Lou was telling me this. Talking about the guy that was doing that crazy stuff. But the books are terrifying because the books are like, this guy is sitting in church. I remember one specifically. That's how terrifying this was to a child reading something like this. The guy is sitting in church and the guy is looking at the woman over there. And so the preacher's talking about Jesus and how, revelations and all. And he's looking at the woman like, God, she's hot. And then the guy dies. I forgot how. And the guy ends up in hell. And he's being because tortured.
He was lusting after that.
Yeah. The books are amazing. Oh
my goodness. Okay, so Citrus Peppercorn,
I love that
a $1 donation. Now we talked about this last week. When I logged into my YouTube account,
$1 donations are free. So everybody here, try it. Right?
No.
Well, it's super chats.
Not everybody got them. If you would let me finish what I was saying.
My bad.
When I logged into my YouTube account and started up the show, it told me that I had 2 $1 denomination super chats that I could give to support a contributor.
Yeah.
A content creator. And so I did it. 1 or 2 other people said that they got it, but a lot of people said that they did not. And Citrus Peppercorn, I guess, I don't know. But Citrus Peppercorn, thank you for the $1. It looks like that is what he or she got.
That's weird.
Because it says, cool, YouTube gave me free super chat. So if you guys got those and you want to send those, thank you. If you do, because it's only $1, you cannot include text with that $1 super chat. So if you want to give that $1 and you do have something to say, just post the comment right after that and I will try to find it.
As an engineer, I would explain why.
We don't. I still got super chat.
I was going to explain why.
But we don't.
As an engineer, you're stuck in a situation. If
I got like 3 more.
Oh, it's okay. I know you get to it. You're capable. As an engineer, if I'm sitting in a meeting and they say, hey, why don't we give $1 to the contributors? Okay, great. That doesn't hurt us. We can randomize it, et cetera. We can help the contributors, et cetera. And we can allow people to try to donate to those contributors. And we can get them familiar with the Super Chat process. Then somebody says, but what if people are just going to write weird stuff in that? Wouldn't we be, on a hook? Like, so somebody is writing, like, really racist, homophobic, just like, Hitler is going to be reinvigorated and all the Jews are going to be killed. Like, some insane stuff. Wouldn't we be on the hook for that? And the people in the meeting was like, yes. It's like, all right, well, just not allowing text, right? So they will write a different subroutine in the way of giving them the $1 that says, if this is in the account, then disallow the text component of it. And maybe for $1, you can't write text anyway.
I think that's true. I got nothing from that explanation.
What do you mean?
Engineer dude.
You didn't know that before.
Okay. Next.
You might have been like, why don't those pricks allow us to write on this? Yeah. You wanted to know that. Some of these people.
Balthazar 228. Thank you, Balthazar.
What's
Balthazar says, Tulsi didn't let you ask questions because you're not a journalist, Anna. Keeping it real by caving to vote for Hillary, an actual homophobe. Why TYT is a trap.
And by the way, that's the other good point. How do you say vote Clinton and then you're going to hit Tulsi on this stuff? Hillary Clinton was a fucking war maniac. Now, whether that's because she's a woman and she doesn't want to appear soft, so she needs to be harder than the men in this case, or if she was just a psychopath. Either way, that's who she was.
Yeah.
And so this idea that she could say, okay, vote Clinton, but Tulsi Gabbard is a no-go because of XYZ.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here. That's a good point, Balthazar.
Debbie Dogs, thank you for the super chat. She said, there's a great proposal regarding cancellation of all student debt and terrific job guarantee. Establishment is hiding it. Maybe I can tweet the link to you. Yes, Debbie Dogs, please tweet that to Jamal.
I want to see it. Yes.
There is another one from Balthazar.
Balthazar,
thank you again. Balthazar says, Jesus, I don't know what the hell they're talking about in the chat.
Go ahead.
I gotta go back to get some context. Because Balthazar says, Jesus comes from the Latin Jesus, from the Hebrew Yeshua.
Yeah.
Jesus, if he existed, was a short, curly-haired, Middle Eastern brown-skinned man named Josh, and Christianity is Josh's advice. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you, Balthazar. Paul BSO Gaming
what's funny?
says, yes, Balthazar.
Oh, God. There's a Star Trek episode.
That's funny.
Wait. There's a Star Trek episode of Discovery. A really good one, actually. Like, I don't like Discovery, per se. Like, it's Star Trek, so I love it just because it's Star Trek. And there are elements of it where it's like Star Trek-esque gleams through. Like, where the original series just kind of peeks his head up just a little bit and submerges above the water. But
we're about to go on a tangent, so if you want to step away for a minute or two and come back to the show, it's about to get bananas in here. So I actually like Pike.
Me too.
For that
Pike
reason,
is awesome.
because he seems more
Kirk-esque.
Right, like old school Trekkie.
But it's utterly preposterous. Discovery is a preposterous episode. Like, and I'm going to explain what I mean. Like I said, sometimes it peeps through. I love Pike. I love the fact that they brought Pike into the show because it gives you a tether into the original series. So that's the first part. Originally, Pike only had like one episode, and that one episode was more than one episode, and I'll explain what I mean. But God, we're going on a tangent. But the other guy said he likes Star Trek. There's an episode that recently came out where there a colony during one of the wars gets transported into this place by itself. It's there alone. For hundreds of years, the colony has been on this planet by itself, just a human colony. And all of the religions that were there merged themselves into one religion because they needed to be peaceful, meaning we need to have some way to organize themselves together. And they cobbled all the religions together into one thing and added a little bit more scripture to it and had their own new religion. This allowed peace because at this point, it's just one religion. Everybody was on the same page. Most. They were scientists. Now, the group of the people who evolved from the scientists were taught the scientific method, logic, processes, and everything else, and they didn't buy into the religious argument. They were like, there is no way this was an act of God. This more likely was some being that did something that got us there, and Earth possibly exists. Discovery finds the ship, goes to the planet, and he's talking to one of the scientists. And in this entire thing, this church was dark because all of the power, the battery, everything had went out. And Pike gives the guy just a power bank, a battery. And Pike is talking to the guy. The guy just says, look, I just want to know what's real. Pike tells him, yes, everything that you thought was real. Earth is still there. These religions are bullshit. And Pike didn't say that because Pike still said there's no way to prove it. So he keeps it as almost just kind of one way or the other. And he gives a guy a battery. And this church that's been dark for hundreds of years lights up. All of the people come on him like, oh, look at the light. The entire thing like fills with light. And it gets across this heavy analogy of, there's another part in there where they're like, the power of math. Like, they're like in this kind of euphoric moment. For years, hundreds of years, these guys have been crawling around in the dark. And with one battery from science, it's able to cut the lights on. Oh, I love the symbology. But some of it is utterly preposterous. Like, Starfleet would not intervene in the affairs of alien species. This was built into the grain of Starfleet.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens in Discovery where you're like, no.
It was like, no way.
They're not going to do. Is he going to listen to her?
No
what?
It's like,
they're going to do that?
Yeah, it's like,
if you guys don't watch it, then you need to check out Star Trek.
I don't want to give too much stuff away, but there's scenes where I'm like, there's no way. It's like this. There's no way. Like, there's no way a captain would allow that. She's like...
What do they call it? The Prime Directive?
The Prime Directive. She's like, I think we need to do something to flagrantly just fuck over the Prime Directive. And Pike is like, oh, man, I'm not sure. And...
All right, we're doing it.
He's like, all right, we're doing it.
We're doing it. Yeah. And I'm like, who is she?
I'm literally sitting on the couch like, they're going to commit genocide. What are you talking about? They're going to wipe out the entirety of the species.
Like, what's going to happen?
And immediately after, they tried to wipe out the entirety of the species.
Wait, you're telling this?
And she's shocked by this. She's like, oh, I can't believe they're going to do this. Me, sitting on my couch, is like, they're going to commit genocide.
Okay.
It's just some of the stuff is utterly preposterous. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's go back to the real world.
Back to
sorry,
remember that song?
Look, this is why Black Box exists. This is why it exists. For shows like that. Where I'm like, there's no way this is an utterly preposterous thing that somebody's going to do.
All right, next super chat. Robert Pookie Ray.
One more thing. There's Angel on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. One of the things I used to like about Angel is Angel had a situation of redemption. He wanted to try to, because of all of the horrible things that he's done, he was trying to redeem himself. So he would throw himself into one dangerous situation after the next. Even if it was torturous, even if it was violent, even if he was going to be decapitated, it didn't matter. He used to throw himself into it. He was a champion. And that was the way they showed, from a cosmic scale, regarded. I used to love that character. Part of the reason I used to love it was because of that. In Supernatural, D. Winchester existed in hell for 44 years and wouldn't break. He wouldn't tell what was taking place because they needed him to break in order to be the breaking of the Winchesters to break the seal. I have a point. And I do have a point. I swear to God, I have a point. And in doing this, there's a certain epicness about that. Until you find out that when Dean broke, Dean started torturing other souls. Now, but you can understand, he's in hell. He's being ripped apart daily, like literally, and his body will transform back so he could be tortured again. Dean's dad, however, had been in hell for centuries and never broke. Meaning the same thing that they were doing to Dean, they did to his dad day in and day out for hundreds of years, and he would never break. This is the stuff of superhumans. Pike goes to Kronos because he needs a time crystal. And he tells him, you're not going to like what you see, and this has broken the best of men. Meaning the best of men who's come in here trying to get this time crystal has left out of their wits. Pike says, I'm not leaving here without this time crystal because the fate of the universe is at stake. Hold on, wait. I'm almost there.
No, because you're telling the
show. I'm almost there. He said the fate of the universe is at stake. Meaning all sentient life in this galaxy is going to go. I am not leaving without a time crystal. You could threaten me, you could beat me, you could nearly kill me. I'm not leaving here, goddammit. And so he says, fine. And he takes him to the time crystal. And Pike reaches out to grab the crystal. And what
Spoiler alert.
And what Pike says, spoiler alert. And Pike sees what I already knew and what anybody who watched the original series knew.
He's gonna die.
He's not gonna die. He's gonna be fucked.
He's gonna be
up.
melty.
His face melts off. He's incapacitated. He can't move his limbs. He's paralyzed. He's a quadriplegic. And he's sitting in a little device where the only way he can communicate is with a light that says beep or beep. That's what was going to happen to him. We knew that in the original series. But Pike doesn't know that because the original series hasn't happened yet. And when he touches the crime crystal, he sees it. And he falls back in horror. Like he's like horrified by this because he's relived this experience. And the Klingon says, if you take that crystal, that fate is locked. If you take that crystal, the crystal that you say you're not leaving with, your fate is locked in. You can't change it. And he starts almost in this kind of Green Lantern way, reciting the vows of Star Trek in order to give him strength to take the fucking crystal. And he rips the crystal off and walks out knowing what his fate is going to be and knowing that his fate is sealed in that. Now, Dean didn't break. What's his name? Didn't break. But this is different because this is him. He doesn't have any blemishes on his record. This is a human being based on an ideology saying, yes, I am going to take this fate knowing what is going to take place. And I'm going to leave here with this fate in the back of my head for the rest of my life because I'm a Starfleet officer and my job is to do the best what I can do for the, for the code in this case. That's fucking epic. Now, when I look at series of Star Trek, it's stuff like that is like it peeks through at a certain level of epicness. And if I'm being honest, that is probably the most epic fucking thing that has happened on any of the Star Trek episodes. I love Pike in this episode. That locks him in to me as one of my favorite captains. Can you imagine that? Would you do that? Like, you know what's going to happen. You know you're going to be a quadriplegic. You know that this is the fate that you're going to lock in. And if you don't take that crystal, meaning you might not take that crystal, you might find some other way to do it, but you don't know that. The only chance that you believe that you have is for you to be incapacitated for maybe the next 20, 30 years of your life, where the only thing you can do is blink. Do you take it? Like, that's, ugh. And the wild part about it, if he would have left there, the only person who knew that he would have left would have been him. Nobody would have known. I couldn't get in. Couldn't get the crystal dog. Sorry. That's something epic about that. In fact, going back to the Sapien book.
No, stop.
The Sapien book kind of makes...
We gotta get back on task.
The Sapien book...
We gotta get back on task.
The Sapien book makes a point that the perspective of human beings, like this ability for human beings to conceive of things that are unreal, like to tell stories that are completely mythological, like even those stories, is one of the things that allow human beings, again, to advance their society. Meaning... we have different ideas, different cultures, and everything else. But if all of us are under the same banner, under the same ideology, be it Jesus, God, Krishna, Allah, government, party, any of these things aren't necessarily real. But there are things that we can see from our heads and even live our lives associated with. It allows larger societies. I'm fascinated about Pike in this role.
I know, but people are saying that you just ruined the show for them because they were not close enough to the screen to mute it, and you went on a tangent and just gave the fucking spoilers away for the show. So thanks for that. Moving on to the next topic, moving on to the next super chat. Robert Pookie Ray, thank you, says, YouTube Red gave me a coupon. Only one place I'd spend it. Thank you, Robert. All right, Charles Calvin says, does the Mueller report make Seth Rich leak more likely?
So, the Mueller report kind of stamps into this thing of Russia propaganda. Right. I mean, because it accepts the narrative. The Mueller report essentially goes with this idea that Russia hacked the election. That's, and by doing hacked, I mean, like released information and all this other stuff. But they associate the blame with the Russians. They say Trump didn't have anything to do with it, but the Russians. So it doesn't challenge the narrative. It, in fact, even makes it that much more significant. Personally, look, I don't have any issue with this idea that somebody who worked for the DNC might have had access to the files of the DNC and might have released information from the DNC, as opposed to the Russians. There was a spearphishing thing that John Podesta was caught in a spearphishing operation where he just kind of clicked on the link that he had no business clicking on. So it wasn't this kind of, enhanced hacking scheme of the Russians and all this other stuff. As for the DNC leak, I'm inclined to believe that somebody who worked at the DNC might have leaked it from the DNC. Yeah. People add conspiracy on top of it, though. It was like Hillary Clinton had that man whacked. They add stuff like that to it. That stuff, I don't need to add that to it. Just the basics.
All right.
And the reason why Julian Assange mentions it, that's why.
I thought I had another super chat, but I'm completely discombobulated. I'm trying to go back through
I can just check right here.
The super chats.
Right here.
The comments. Just to check and see.
Charles Gavin. That was the last one.
Yeah, it looks like we got them all.
Alright. So let's go to the next story. I'm sorry, I'm gonna tangent.
That's how we roll on.
This is why
if you're new here and you weren't aware, tangents.
This is why black boxes like
there you go
necessary. For stuff like that, talking about the meaning of that stuff, like what does it mean and why?
So we did a quick little announcement earlier. We're not going to go all into this to the information again, but just very quickly, Jamarl is working on a project for a second channel. The name of that will be The Black Box, and this is where he will do more of this kind of analysis, conversation about Star Trek, reality, all that good stuff. So we'll make the announcement again at the end of the video, and we did it at the beginning, and that way you'll get to see the intro for the new YouTube channel that is going to be more specific to this kind of content. So your Streamlab.
Kills for a living. Jamarl is beating his work wife. What's next? Are you going to be making an argument of why we should vote for Hillary Clinton? He's talking about Sam Cedar. Cedar and Brooks.
Lord have mercy.
All right, so let's do the student loan thing. My T-zone.
Wait, did we get another?
Is that what's called T-zone? Like right here. It's really bright.
Yeah, I'm right.
Do I like makeup or something?
Right, I have some powder.
When Jimmy Dore was on, when him and I were talking, Jimmy Dore, I think he pulled out like a makeup kit. He was like,
"Don't lie on Jimmy Dore."
No, he didn't do it. I don't know what it was, but he was like tapping his face. But I think he might have been tapping for that exact reason. I was like,
I don't know. Sometimes I notice that we get a little oily. It's just a big bright light beaming down on us, like Jesus is coming down. J. Zeus Croy says, is it possible for all corporate-owned candidates to band together and gift their delegates one to each other?
Yes.
There's a theory saying that this is what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
that they're going to try.
You can say, all of the people who voted for me, I want to pass my delegates on to so-and-so. Yes. Yes. I mean, look, if Sanders wins, he has to win in a dominant fashion. Like, this could look like the way Trump and the Republicans were, where all of these guys were like 20%, like, you know, Trump had like 20%, and then somebody else had 2% and 5% and 8%. You know, Donald Trump wore 30%, and next close person was at 10%. Like, you could have it like that where it's going through over and over again. Tulsi Gabbard is at 62,000 donations. She only needs 65,000 to be on the debate stage. So there are some people who I consider on the debate stage to be friends of Sanders. She's one of them. Like, they may be competing, but I don't think they're going to be competing in the sense of one trying to gut the other. Elizabeth Warren, maybe. You know, she's iffy. I mean, you know, usually she didn't support Sanders in the last go round, so there's no reason for me to believe she'll be a friend to Sanders in this case. But those two, Sanders needs to be overly dominant, and hopefully he chooses her for Secretary of State. So, Education Department, that's on you.
All right, so next topic here. I thought this was kind of interesting. Everybody loves good old Betsy DeVos, right? So in 2007, apparently, the Bush administration introduced a program called Public Service Loan Forgiveness. And it was supposed to encourage college graduates to pursue careers like teachers, public defenders, or rural doctors, firefighters, because these public service fields traditionally pay relatively low wages.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, in 2018...
Wait, engage that for a moment.
Oh, wait.
Well, I was going to say, engage that for a moment. Like, you can totally understand why. Like, if you're a teacher and you're making, let's say, $20,000 a year, why on earth would you ever go into that field if you've gone to college?
Right. It's not worth it.
Yeah. You have a $40,000 college loan. You're going to be paying $600 a month for college, and you're making, like, $1,200 a month or $1,200 every 2 weeks. Like, that's utterly insane. This is kind of my point. I make this argument all the time that says, as a society, you should want people to go to college. You should want people to be educated. You should want people to get the fast and best education they could possibly get, because those things are a benefit, not a detriment to your society.
Right.
Like, if you're going to invest in anything.
They're called public servants.
Yeah. Oh, you should have open schools. Anybody from around the world that wants to come to your schools, congratulations, come on in. That's how Germany does it. You should do the same. And in this country, if somebody has $1 to their name, they still should be able to go to school. I'm just saying. Those things are a benefit to us. Think of, like, you're a teacher making $30,000 a year. Why the hell would you ever go in to be a public teacher?
Right. So if I'm a new graduate...
Why?
I'm not looking at, like, there are some people who are, I'm passionate, I've always wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, okay, well, I have some options, I'm not really sure what I want to do.
It's a disincentive.
Unfortunately, and a lot of times, money is that determining factor.
Yes.
What am I going to do that's going to give me the biggest salary because I have all this debt to pay off. And so
as a society,
that was the initial
those
hope.
people are with our kids
Yeah.
constantly. Like
firefighters, policemen, military too.
your kid is growing up from the time he's 4 to the time they're like 17 with teachers. Like why do you
a
want,
lot of times the teachers spend more hours a day with your kids
than you
do, than parents
than
do.
waking hours. You should want, as a society, if you're going to dump resources, like we're going to talk about this later with India being able to launch and knock a thing out the sky.
Yeah,
and it's like, look at us. We're the 4th country to be able to destroy such a thing. As opposed to, look at us. We have such an educated populace that anybody can go to school. That is an accomplishment. Look at us. We have universal health care where everybody in this country can get health care. We've evolved as a society where education and health care are primary, like our rights of the individuals of our society. Like those are things to be proud of, man.
All right, let me go on to the.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just think of all the engineers, all the scientists, all the people who we have. Like think of all the people that are in poverty right now in our society, and think for the moment that there's a probability, a percentage of those people who, given the opportunity, would have went to school and would have done something either in science and math and art and literature and whatever what they were. But that's if they were given the opportunity to do so. Now, not all, but there's a percentage of which that are no longer off your streets, that are no longer using public services, that are no longer, kind of this detriment to the system, but there's something that's giving beneficially to the system itself. That's it always blows my mind that it's like, we're going to put people over a barrel and say, look, either you're going to get a shitty life or you're going to give us thousands of dollars. What is it going to be? That's fucked up. And as a society, that is not something we should allow. That aggravates me because, even I'm affected by the college loan thing. Even we were affected by the college loan thing. Good, I'm sorry.
This is my story.
It's just fucked up. I mean, you can go tell the story because I have a tie-in to this.
Okay, all right. So, in 2018, Senator Tim McCain and Sheldon Whitehouse, Tim McCain from Virginia and Whitehouse from Rhode Island, introduced a temporary expansion, to increase the number of individuals that were approved for student loan forgiveness, this being the public servants. This recent story is basically saying, ain't nobody getting that money. $700 million was authorized for this expansion. So far, $10 million has been given out. 38,460 individuals have applied for the program. 262 have made the cut.
That's sad.
262.
And this is because of the way they were interpreting
This is because
the
of
legislation.
the very strict criteria that's being placed on the program. We'll go to the article here. Tens of thousands of public servants have applied to have their federal student loans forgiven through a temporary relief program run by the U.S. Department of Education. Fewer than 300 have succeeded. Tim King says, we authorized $700 million to help ensure public servants, including firefighters, teachers, and nurses, receive the loan forgiveness they have earned. And it's maddening that the Trump administration is letting it go to waste. This is what Tim King said. It's been about a year since the Education Department launched the temporary expansion. The goal was to give the public servants enrolled in the wrong payment plan another shot at having the balance of their debt erased after 10 years of on-time payments. In response to an inquiry from Kane, the Education Department disclosed last week that 38,460 people had submitted requests for forgiveness as of December 28th. Most of those, 28,640 people, were immediately rejected because they had not previously filled out a formal loan forgiveness application, one of the many criteria of the relief program. Of the 9,820 applicants who cleared the first hurdle, only 1,184 are still under consideration. The rest were rejected for a bunch of reasons. Of the applicants who cleared the initial hurdle, 40% still had years to go before hitting the required 10-year mark. So you have to be payments for 10 years, right?
In fact, they're indentured servants that didn't even get what they were going to get at the end of the mark.
Nearly a quarter were ineligible because they were paying less money in the wrong payment plan than they would have in the correct one. Others were turned away for having the wrong type of federal loan, those originated by private lenders through the now defunct Federal Family Education Loan Program. Some had not made enough on-time payments or had not had at least 10 years of full-time employment certified by a qualifying employer. The department thoroughly evaluates, approves, and denies requests for consideration for temporary expanded loan forgiveness based on the criteria Congress established. This is from Education Department spokeswoman Liz Hill.
Yeah, but that's not really it. I mean, only 262 people have jumped through the hoops, meaning they've allotted $700 million, but all of that, only 200 people have been able to
Right, the equivalent is about 10 million of those $700 million has been
allocated towards it because they've been putting one hoop. Well, the boss doesn't believe in this. And that's what it boils down to. And the criteria that they're setting is to essentially prevent people from getting what they're supposed to be getting from.
They're making it more and more difficult.
This is, God, I hate this because they're indentured servants. And if you want, honestly, what they should have said was, look, if you're going to work for the public, either as a teacher, firefighter, policeman, fireman, whatever, we're going to cover your college loan. Period. That's what they should have said.
But only if you do XYZ, ABC,
and 10 years is
then
obscene.
QRS,
10 years is far too long.
Paid 10 years.
I mean, but it should be basic and straightforward. Look, you work for us for 5 years, we'll pay your college loan. Period. And hell, even sign from in the beginning that says, look, this loan is there. You don't have this loan because this is not on your back. But if you don't finish your 5 years, the loan, like you can do this in all sorts of ways, but this is obscene.
Though that kind of implies that people want to help these individuals.
They don't want to.
They would do something like that, but that's not the goal.
But that's kind of my point of saying, make it simple. Because the fact of the matter is, it can be interpreted depending on who wins in any sorts of way. I mean, Congress passes a law and they interpret it as, okay, we can put all these hoops up. No, make it basic, straightforward, and allow people to benefit from it. That's what Congress should have done in the first place. 5 years, call it a day. We pay your loan. Just keep it basic and simple. There's no way that they can fuck that up. Meaning there's no way that, you know, even if you got a Republican president, unless they pass some other bill to countermand that, that department would have to interpret it in the way that Congress expressly says, which is just, look, this person worked for the public for 5 years. Get rid of it. Yeah. Get rid of this, you know, this idea of whether they paid their loan or not. I don't give a shit if they paid their loan. Even if they hadn't paid their loan, if you work for the government for 5 years, you know, I'm just saying, make it basic, straightforward, to the point, and accessible to human beings.
Apparently, the criteria is very convoluted.
We spend nearly $1 trillion on our military. And are you telling me that that's just, what, 700? How much?
$700
just $1 billion, nearly $1 billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion. That's how much they want to invest in our public service and the people who work in the public service. Just $1 billion.
And they don't even clearly want to invest it. So,
our government doesn't have to be this way. When I make this argument, I make the argument all the time. It doesn't have to be this way. Meaning, whether it's a corporate Democrat, whether it's a Republican, meaning a Jeb Bush or a Hillary Clinton, for the most part, there's only a minor degree of difference in those things. This could be different, man. Like, this doesn't have to be the society that we have. It doesn't have to be gotchas and all this other stuff. This is like the stuff they have in Britain where they're making it difficult for people to access benefits. And so they put all of these hoops for people to work through in order. And her argument is, look, if it's overly difficult for people to do, people may just get work. But understand, there are people who are using this because they can't get work. And because for whatever reason, they need this assistance. You've just made it difficult for the people who actually need it.
Yeah.
This is like the medical stuff. Like this, I take pain meds for something that took place years ago. And the new drug company, or the company, has now said, you can only get your prescription 7 days apart. Think about that. Think of all the people who are actually on chronic pain management. And now those people are like, they have to continuously go back. Some of those people might be in their 50s, 60s, 70s. What if they're 80 years old and they're bedridden and they have to continuously go back to get a prescription? All of this is because they're blaming drug companies for something that is somewhat societal. I agree the drug companies might have tried to kind of up their game, but why wouldn't they up their game? Their job is to maximize their profit. Just like prison lobbies will pay for people to be put in prison longer by, you know, trying to get past harsher laws. Just saying, this stuff aggravates me. They did, and I'll give you another example. They sent me a letter, and the letter said, Mr. Thomas, we see that you're on Medicare, and because of that, if you may be eligible for student loan forgiveness. I'm like, great. These student loans are hounding me for God knows how long. Great. And then you look at the details, and it's like, you have to be certified that you are incapable of any type of work, no matter what that work is. And I'm like, my grandmother can fold envelopes. My grandmother can't work, but she can fold envelopes. Does that count? Yeah, it gets into these technicalities. It's like we're giving you a standard that pretty much, right, it's almost impossible for anybody to meet. And for that matter, does YouTube count? Is YouTube work? Yes, it's work. I get paid from Google. I have to pay it on my taxes, which means that technically, no, you're not eligible for the thing. Like if you're saying we have this thing available, but nobody is eligible for the thing that we have available, then you don't have the thing available at all. That sucks. Anything else you want to say on this story? Because I know you've been hounded with student loan stuff too. So, and everybody I know has been hounded with student loan stuff. Obama, when Obama became president, do you know he had just finished paying off his student loans like less than 10 years before he became president? Yeah. It's amazing.
No, that's all I had. Just almost 99% of the applications submitted have been denied. I thought that was kind of
sucky.
Insane.
Intentionally, in order to make sure it fails.
Yeah, and then when I clicked on the article and it had Betsy DeVos's face
right off the bat, you knew where that was going.
This is going to be.
Yeah. All right, so India one. Now, this is one that Gardnome gave us, right?
Right. So, again, just really quickly for the patron appreciation spiel.
Go for it.
Once a week, we post in Patron in the app and say, hey, for Sunday's Patron Appreciation Show, what would you like to see discussed? If you are a patron, make sure that you log in, check out that post and submit your topics there, or you can send it through email, a private message through Patron. If you're contributing somewhere else, then you can send those topic suggestions as well. And then they will be looked over and reviewed and potentially talked about on today's show, the weekly Sunday show. And so this next one is from Gardnome. Gardnome usually submits something like every single week.
He sends good ones.
He sends good ones. And if we're not picking yours, it's not that it's not good. It might be something that Jamarl does not typically cover on his channel. Something that he has already covered before,
which means by
in great detail.
I'm joking. It can be all sorts of reasons.
Right.
It has nothing to do with
right. And so that's why we say it's suggestions. Put your topic suggestions in there. But we do look at all of them. So thank you guys who submit. And thank you, Gardnome, because he always sends like several.
Always is too strong.
And
I thought it was always good ones.
No, I didn't say always good ones. Because we've seen a few and we were like, yeah, fuck that. From Gardnome. But yeah, so this is one from a patron from Gardnome. So if you're a patron, don't forget to submit your topics because that's what fuels today's show.
Yes.
If you're not a patron, consider being a patron. Also, we've got about 227 people here. Make sure that you hit the like button if you enjoy the content. If you're not subscribed, you should be a subscriber. Not everybody can contribute monetarily. So just liking the video does help the channel as well, and watching the video. So thank you for all that. I don't know what are you doing? No.
Can I touch it?
No, he's asking, can he touch my hair? That's very inappropriate. You never walk up to a woman, a black woman especially, and say, can I touch your hair?
Do people do that to white women? Do like black men walk up to white women and be like, can I touch this? Like that just seems. It always seems it only goes one way.
I don't know. But surprisingly, I don't remember ever having a white woman do that. But I told you about that time. Black women touch my hair all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like.
That's also bothersome. Yeah.
Like, just, come on, I don't know you. I told you that time I was in the elevator at work and the girl touched my hair, or she went to touch my hair, and like, she like went down my ear, and I felt so violated. And it happened so fast.
She pulled a Biden.
I couldn't really say anything.
She pulled a Biden.
I couldn't really say anything.
It's like she touched me inappropriately.
But yeah, so this next one, we're going to talk about India.
Yeah.
And they launched a missile into space to shoot down one of their satellites and potentially created a bunch of space havoc.
This is why. Let me show you this first, and I want to talk about it, because there's a reason why countries don't have wars in space. There's a very good reason, by the way. I've heard Colonel Wilkinson talk about this. Well, let's watch the video first. I want to show this. This is a recreation of it. This is a recreation of India's. They sent essentially a missile, kill shot. Now, as you know, the United States, Russia, and China have shown a propensity for this technology, the ability to knock out satellites. You can understand why that's important, because we've become more technologically diverse. And as we get more and more advanced, a lot of that stuff is dependent on satellites. Global positioning, the ability for communications, all those things depends on satellites. And if you are in some kind of conflict or war, if you have the ability to knock out your opponent's satellites, you can essentially leave your opponents blind. This has become somewhat of an important thing. Not to mention the ability to defend those satellites, since you have other things that can kill those satellites. That type, like all of this stuff comes in effect now. Let's take a look at this. But India is becoming the 4th country to be able to do this. They hail this as an amazing, momentous achievement that Modi, who is trying to get reelected, is kind of saying, look at what we've been able to do. Look at my works. Look at my works. Vote Modi. So let's watch it.
Wait, and to be clear, this is a simulation.
Yeah, it's a simulation.
From a group of software engineers for what this missile launch could potentially have done.
And I hope you say that again.
Stuff, you said say that again?
All right, so this is green. That's the missile. Bam! Those are particulates.
That is all debris.
What is it? Newton's law of motion, equal and opposite reaction, and all that good stuff. So when it hits, it shatters. I mean, we're talking about a high energy, high impact reaction. We're literally talking about a slug slamming into another piece of metal, exploding it, after which all of those particulates go zooming into the various directions.
This simulation, they're estimating over 6,000 pieces of debris could potentially be floating around the Earth, at least the size of an eraser head, like a pencil eraser head.
Yeah, high and them up. Now, understand, each bit of this debris is like, oh, that doesn't sound like much. All of these things are flying around the Earth at like supersonic speeds. These things are like little missiles in and of themselves. And if they hit a satellite, if they hit an astronaut, if they hit one of the things that are in space, it will destroy or leave a hole or damage those particular items. If it's an astronaut, it's going to damage the astronaut.
I think I saw something where they're saying that impact with one of these things or impact with something is almost like the equivalent of 2 cars on a head-on collision going 22,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, like the speeds are
so it's like, oh, it's just a little something floating out in space.
Now, some of this is going to degrade into the Earth's atmosphere and gets burned up because of the friction. Like the speed at which it's going is rubbing up against the atmosphere itself, in which case it's going to disintegrate. Not all. Not all.
And that is what India is saying, like as a defense, is that, it's going to...
It's not that big of a deal, dog.
It's kind of just...
But not all of it will.
Right.
There's, in some of that impact, there's, again, probability, a percentage of some that is going to go above the impact point or degrade point. Meaning there's a certain point in which it degrades into the Earth's orbit. There's another point in which it kind of just goes into this kind of orbit, in which case it's flying around space. Like, part of the reason that some of the satellites are getting to the point of trying to be able to defend itself against stuff like this is shit like this. Yeah.
Okay, so can I go off on a tangent for really quickly?
Go for it.
I thought this was interesting, and I wrote this down because we watched Netflix. I don't know if you guys have heard of that anthology series. It's called Robot Kill or something like that. But Netflix has the series
That's actually really good.
Of like 18 different little small snippets.
Kill Love Robots?
Yeah, I think so. But one of them was about a woman that was out in space.
Love sex.
And as I was reading this, it made me think about that because she was out in space, she was repairing a satellite, and all of a sudden this one random thing started hurtling towards her. And I remember thinking, she is the unluckiest broad in the world. She is out here in the middle of nowhere in space, and she's about to get hit with some random space debris. Like, what are the chances of that? And I remember while we were watching that, Jamarl was like, there's actually a lot of shit floating around.
There's a lot of shit floating in space. I mean, they just have it flying around the orbit. Yeah. I mean,
and it took her out. It was like the premise of this little skit that they did was it. Spoiler alert! It clipped her arm.
Yeah.
Or
it took her arm off.
She ended up having
to bleeding in space or something.
She ended up having to sever her own arm and throw it in one direction to create enough momentum to push her body back to get back to the satellite. Like she had to take her own arm. It was
like Newton's law of motion or something. Like equal and opposite reactions. And so her throwing her arm allowed push backwards. Right. It's how all sorts of stuff works. Like in space where they have these little things popping out the back end of it and pushing forward.
Yeah.
Now that's fascinating. But there's a ton of space stuff flowing in space. Here's the thing. the countries of the world, particularly Russia and the United States, had agreed that there were no weapons in space. They had a space treaty. We would not put weapons in space. We would not put weapons in space. Now, it's possible that the United States has violated this treaty, but it's uncertain whether or not that's true. I suspect yes, but whatever. That's kind of besides the point. Part of the reason that they're saying no weapons in space, because the first war in space is the last war in space. The moment that you get into these kind of high impact collisions, imagine what we're talking about here. Let's say you shoot something out of space. This debris and shit flies all around, meaning your ability to put up satellites, your ability to fly into space, your ability to use, let's say, typical flight patterns immediately change.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you can't, your war in space destroys or inhabit and hurts the rest of the world. Like, so, you know, your country, two countries have a war in space, and it creates enough debris that blacks out the rest of the world because of these two countries ended up with this war in space. It's a big deal. Also, we get into the secondary thing of India doing this could hamper other nations. What if one of these debris hits a Chinese satellite? What if it hits an American satellite? I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose, but the very act of you going out into space has global consequences for the things that you do, especially if you're doing things like this. Like, that's... People criticizing India.
Can we hold them responsible or take it as a...
We'd hold them responsible. I mean, they're not going to go to war over it, but they would definitely try to hold them responsible for it. Like, it's just a big deal. We got to get out this idea that us operating purely on our own agency somehow doesn't affect other people. I'm saying this from all nations, and particularly India, who thinks this is just like, look how awesome this is, with the consequences, oh, they're not that big a deal. They're not that big of a deal. It is a big of a deal. These war in space stuff, Donald Trump is not doing a good service. Like the getting rid of the treaties in space, he should be working to get those treaties in space.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
I thought it was interesting.
Just to kind of think about all the shit that's kind of floating up there. I mean,
Lawrence Wilkerson.
It's not right here in your face, so it's not a big deal. Like,
yeah, we don't see it. And we think, oh, God, space is big. Lawrence Wilkerson made this argument. Like, he was the first person that kind of put my mind on this argument of, what does it mean to have a war in space? And when these guys are talking about weaponizing space, what does it mean? And you're saying, like, it's not like this stuff just falls to Earth. Like, you shoot something out of the sky and just falls to Earth. It's in space. Like, it's flying around your planet. Yeah, it may be orbiting your society, your world. You may have all sorts of debris and trash in space because these guys have been having, fucking around up there. So, there's a reason why we have space treaties. It's not purely because, Russia doesn't want to have a space race with the United States. Trump and Bolton look at it as, we don't believe in treaties, man. We want to have full spectrum dominance. Well, the problem with that is, your first conflict in space is the last conflict in space.
Michael Williams says space debris has already hit the International Space Station. Luckily, it didn't hurt anything. Yeah.
That's my point.
I just thought it was when I looked at it, I was like, she's out in space in the middle of nowhere. And she gets knocked off of repairing this satellite by a piece of debris. And I was like, I was like, what are the chances? And Jamal was like, there's actually a lot of stuff floating around out there. It's really high. And somebody said, could she have thrown something else?
She didn't have anything else.
When she got knocked off of the space station, she was literally just floating out there to her death. And she was getting farther and farther away. And so
I would have died.
She took her glove off.
Yeah.
And let the atmosphere, tried her glove, right. And then once her arm froze, she kind of
broke it and threw it.
Broke it off, and it was hardcore. I was like, well, I'd have been dead. I would have just died.
It would have even occurred to me. I would have been like,
I mean, maybe once you're there, you're like, either I have no arm or I'm dead. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Death may be preferable, man. I don't have this idea that death is not a preferable option in some cases.
So you'd rather die than have one arm?
What would be the difference?
I think there's a big difference between death and living with one arm.
Well, you're assuming that life is, life may be important in the sense of, your life because you want to keep a continuity. But if you're talking about the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. I'm talking
about an individual left with two options, die or have one arm.
But you're saying that the life is somehow more important. I guess what I'm getting at is
the fact that most people have the instinct to want to live, don't
That's because all those people are biased because those people are alive. It's a little bit different when you don't necessarily know what's on the other side of the veil. Even if there's nothing on the other side of the veil, you're talking about chewing or cutting your entire arm off, which is going to have a certain degree of pain. Now, the question is life worth it? I don't know, dog. That's rough. If you're 20, maybe. If you're 60,
what if you're 41?
probably going to fall to earth and burn up.
We got a good life insurance policy. All right, let's move on to the next one.
The question becomes, is life worth it? I mean, ultimately what we're getting at is life worth it? People who are answering this question, yes, I'm making a point of bias because they're alive. We don't have any zombies to make that answer, to talk about the other side.
See, Gardenome says, there's a limit to the suffering I would accept to save my own life.
Yes, exactly.
That's what Jamal's saying.
That's my point. How much? Yeah, how much suffering?
Zombie in the air. That's not what he said. Zombie in the air says Jamal thinks amputees should die. That's how rumors get started. That's not the conversation that we're having.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
This is the question between somebody being pregnant versus somebody thinking about getting pregnant. Right? It is. No, it is.
What?
Like, if your girlfriend comes to you and says, I'm pregnant, the first question has to be, who's the daddy? Yeah. And the second one, if she answers that it's yours, I need a test.
No,
now,
it doesn't. Why is that the first question? So when I come and I say, or if I come and I say, babe, I'm pregnant. And actually, funny, true story, we have had this conversation, and that was something that he asked me. And there's a lot of profanity that followed that. I believe that he said that jokingly. I know that when at the end of the year, we were on separate continents for a month or two, about a month, while he was still traveling and I was at home. And I didn't say, clearly I'm not pregnant, but something happened and he was like, yeah, I don't know whose baby that is. And I was like, you don't want those kind of problems in your life. That is not.
Haven't been there for a month, man.
That's not the conversation you have.
Not saying you're guilty. You might have sat on a toilet or something.
Yeah, Chinty says, what the fuck? How can you ever say that to your wife? Jamal's an asshole. Garden Gnome says, that's correct. That is the first question.
That is the first question.
I'm pregnant. Whose baby is it? That's not fucking
first. Whose child is that? Yeah.
I think it depends on what kind of relationship you're in. When you've been together for 8 years and married for 3 years, in what appears to be
it's like 2.5.
A loving, faithful,
it's like 2.5. Let's be
committed relationship. Maybe that shouldn't be the first question that you ask. It's a little insulting to the woman,
say, if you're talking to your girlfriend and your girlfriend comes to you and says she is pregnant, I did stress girlfriend, so whoever's smearing me saying I said that to my wife. Now,
I think you said it jokingly, but you did say that. And
it's situational dependent, right? It is.
I do. I think it depends on the relationship. Like, I see some people and I'll be like,
I've watched a lot of Maury.
Somebody just said call in Maury Pope.
I watch a lot of Maury and Springer. And, it's like sometimes you're like, wow, man, that guy's been paying child support for how long?
And that's not his baby.
That is not his baby.
Can he get his money back?
I have no people like that. So it's, where it's like they pay child support and you find out they're not the dad. You're like, oh.
Not to mention, at that point, if they are like a good, if they've been like an involved dad, like a good dad, then they're kind of screwed. And at that point, they're upset because then they're like, I've created a relationship with this child. I see them as my kid. Oh, okay, bye. Now, like most of them, they don't have that in them, and they're like, I'm going to stick around.
Because that's my kid.
Okay, I'm punching her in the face.
Now, but this is kind of my point. The difference between getting preggo versus thinking about preggo. The moment that your child is here, you're stuck. Like you don't have this conceptual thing of should you or shouldn't you. This is kind of what I mean when I said the arm's cut off. If you have to think about it, you're probably not going to do it. If your arm was severed while you were repairing the satellite, then you're stuck with the situation and you just deal with the situation.
Propaganda says, I like this propaganda. When Jamal has a child, he will realize he would rip his arm off to be in his child's life.
I'm sorry, I'm skeptical.
Let me tell you, okay, so my oldest brother, he's a bit of an adrenaline junkie as well. Well, he likes to snowboard and stuff like that. But I don't know if you guys know, but Jamal is a true adrenaline junkie. He's been bungee jumping and skydiving and everything. And I remember that I told my oldest brother that, let's go skydiving. Let's do it together. And he was like, all right, I got to do it like before like my daughter hits a certain age or something like that. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to do it before I have kids, because it's another thing putting your life out there on the line. You have a stronger incentive to live when you know that you have to get home to these children.
Yeah, you have a certain responsibility. So I understand. I mean, even in a marriage, like it's like all right, I shouldn't do things that may kill me sooner. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I understand it.
Not being as dangerous. But yeah, anyway, I don't know how we got here. But
I was making the point that it's the difference between having a kid versus thinking about having a kid. The moment that the kid is there, then the kid is there and you have to deal, as opposed to...
It's like, what if we're pregnant? What if... Do we want to get pregnant? I don't know. Maybe not be the right time.
As opposed to...
We're pregnant.
Oh, fuck, I'm pregnant. Yeah. There's a difference in those things, you know?
No, we're pregnant. Not, oh, fuck, you're pregnant. Oh, we're pregnant. Because I've already decided, like, if and when I get pregnant, it is all your fault. Like, I'm going to be so upset and I'm going to be like, why did you do this to me?
You don't want a kid.
That's the standpoint that I'm going to take.
Oh, you already know mine. You better have the test with you.
The pregnancy test?
No.
The DNA test?
The boring test. It's like, Mr. Thomas, you are not the father. You bitch! How dare you? Where's the security guard? Jerry Bustos takes on the new left. All right, so this is one I wanted to do. And I was going to do this for the regular video. I even had the regular video queued up. Jerry Bustos is essentially the chairwoman of the DCCC. And as you know, the DCCC has come out with an iron fist approach to dealing with the lefties who have gotten a bit ornery, like AOC and Justice Democrats. AOC and Justice Democrats have taken the position that, look, we want the world to change. We want to move the country to the left. And there are some dinosaurs that are in office that are preventing us from moving the country to the left. Ergo, we need to remove the dinosaurs that are preventing us from moving the country to the left. That's logical. It makes sense. Cherry comes out and says, well, wait a minute. We don't want you to remove the dinosaurs because this is their job. Whether they're representing their constituency or not, this is their job. And we don't want you to remove those dinosaurs. So anybody, any company that is going to assist in trying to remove one of those dinosaurs from office, we will blacklist you. What this means is that anybody that is trying to take out one of the Democrats, even if they're not representing their constituency, even if they're not right for their constituency, even if they're holding up progress, the DCCC cuts off all working with those companies, those vendors, those everything, a complete blackout. They've declared sanctions on those lefties that are trying to get in office, which means people like AOC, people like Omar, many of these young freshman progressives that they're like, oh, look how, wouldn't exist. Wouldn't exist. This is the approach that they've taken. Now, AOC has gotten pissed off, and a lot of people have made the point that this is nonsense, this is BS, you shouldn't be able to do this, etc., etc. And AOC has said, don't give the DCCC your donations. Withhold all of your donations from the DCCC. If they're going to have this policy, then you should not support. Boycott. Ileana, I don't remember if Ileana commented on this. I forgot what Rokana said on this, but Rokana was completely against this and, was strongly pushing back against them doing this. I came across somebody on Twitter who was a candidate who's trying to become a candidate, but was not able to because no vendor wanted to act or work with her because of the sanctions that the Democratic Party has put on essentially new people coming into the party. This is extremely problematic. Now, my point is, this is a precursor to a civil war. This is the material precursor to a civil war. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, these guys have these ideological differences and they're bumping heads and everything else and the new lefties and it. That's one thing. But I've made this argument that a reckoning is coming. It has to. There's no way that it can't. These guys are working in diametric opposition. The lefties are literally trying to take some of the Democrats out of office that are not allowing them to achieve their objectives. Right. Those other Democrats and the leadership of the party don't want to change. They want to remain as they are. They want to say, oh, look at these new energy, but we want this new energy to just shut the fuck up and stay in their place. Both of these things can't be true. Right. They're forcing the new left or these lefties to come up with means and ways of organizing themselves that can challenge the orthodoxy that's there now. Because they have to. If they don't, they fail. That's the end of it. Meaning AOC, Justice Democrats, all that shit stops here if they can't find a way to challenge who's currently in office. Because you're not pressuring those dinosaurs to make additional concessions. They need to be removed. You need to take them out. Joe Manchin needs to be removed from his seat. The various people in the various states, the various states need to be removed. That's the only way you're going to get progress. And so, it's like, whatever these guys are going to do, they need to find a way. And what the Democratic Party fucks up on is realizing or missing the point that if these guys come up with a new way of finding vendors and people who would assist them in that, they're fucked. Because you've just declared war on this other aspect of your party. And if this party is able to succeed by means that doesn't include you, then you're just not included in the means to which they succeed.
Right.
Like, you've declared war on members of your party. A.O.C. getting to the point of saying, withhold your donations from the party to which I belong, is a very clear indication of an us versus them mentality within the context of the Democratic Party itself. This is something that she's picking a fight on. And there's some Democrats who are like, good job on picking the fight with these guys. But they would never say that aloud. The fact that they wouldn't say it aloud gets across that the hegemonic viewpoint that runs within the Democratic Party is shifting. They're losing the argument. They shouldn't have to work this heavy-handed. They shouldn't have to act in these ways. And if they're scared to say anything about it, it means that the orthodoxy, the language that's being used, is to some degree being usurped by a minority section of the party. And minority just purely from the standpoint of the leadership. If you're talking to the regular public itself, even among Democrats, the left wins the argument. Like, this is a fascinating thing that's taking place. She is fighting a losing battle, I would argue, in regards to trying to stop the tide of history from changing and re-ensouling the Democratic Party to what it was. I don't know if it'll work. If she succeeds, the answer is no, it doesn't work. In which case, the Sanders argument and everything else crawls back in his cage. A.O.C. is the best that you got. She's isolated in Congress, and they're able to instantiate that viewpoint. If Trump wins, or if Sanders wins, she gets destroyed. Like, this aspect of the party. Like, this is playing for keeps to some degree in regards to these aspects of the left. But this picks a fight, and this creates a clear us versus them, where a Democrat literally says, don't give Democrats money.
Yeah. Civil war.
Oh, fascinated by this. I'm fascinated. And by the way, I predicted this from day one on my show. Just saying. You could see it. Like, the incentives. Like, every last incentive, based on what the Justice Democrats want to do and A.O.C. wants to do, requires them. Meaning for A.O.C. to say, oh, I want Medicare for all, I want Green New Deal, I want all this stuff. Then she can't work with the party as it is. Because the party as it is would never deliver those things. Same thing with Justice Democrats. If they really believe what they're saying and we're trying to change it, same thing with the other group, that lefty group, Brand New Congress. If they honestly believe what they are saying, then they need to change the composition of Congress, which means they need to have primaries. They need to get these guys out of their seats, which means that the leadership of the party is going to be directly against them when the leadership flips out, because the leadership is in the hands of a corporate class. Yeah. Like it's you could see it. You can see the beginnings of it just in an ideological split and the fights that they were having, and it starts to take material gravity the moment that you get lefties in Congress, and they're like, all right, we need to get shit done. Oh, we can't get shit done. Okay, how do we get shit done? That guy needs to be pulled out of the seat. Don't care about this one. Not interested in this one.
Oh, this one's okay. I mean, it's fine. I just don't have anything to add.
What do you mean I got nothing to add? You think it's okay that they attack lefties like this?
No, I don't think it's okay. I mean, I think you
even
covered
if lefties,
it well. I don't know what
even
else
if
I need to
lefties
add to.
came out saying that their job is to try to take these guys out of their seats, is it the lefties that started it? If the lefties are saying, we're going to take some people out of the seats in the DCCC as we're going to defend our seats.
Some of them need to be taken out.
Well, I'm asking the question from a different perspective, though. If the
DCCC... Who started it?
Who started it? And is this approach right based on what the lefties in the group are trying to accomplish? Meaning, if the lefties say, we're trying to take you out of your seat, and they're defending the seats.
Themselves.
Yes. But what does it mean themselves? That's where it gets interesting to me. Who is them?
Old, stale dinosaurs.
Corporate class.
Versus the new progressive.
It's the corporate class. They're trying to defend themselves. It's almost like they're... Do you remember in Attack of Titan where they were trying to kill the woman and she like put herself into this cocoon and nobody can break the cocoon? It's like their last stand. They're in a fear bunker. They're trying to like hold off the people who are assailing them. And they are being assailed. Their points of view are being assailed. Like the fact that they can't say that good job gets across something that... Why can't they say good job to her for doing this? Mm-hmm. They're losing the argument. Yeah. And they know they're losing the argument. You don't care? Nothing to say on this at all?
No, babe. I'm with you. That's all I got. I don't have anything else to add.
High drama.
No, and I don't like the whole high drama stuff. It doesn't really get me all excited. I'm reading the comments and making some notes for myself for later.
What are the comments?
They're kind of all over the place. They're not really talking about your topic either. So Ha. California doesn't count when it comes to voting for president. They're talking about Nancy Pelosi.
California does count, but California is...
Justice Dems and BNC were caught playing shell games with cash. Yeah.
Shell games with cash. All right, so let's go to the next one.
They're talking about A.O.C. I think we just got one more.
All right, Rand Paul. I don't even think I pulled that one up. This was kind of at the last minute. Maybe I have it here. Let's see. Did I pull it up? Right here. Rand Paul. U.S. law forbids the CIA from spying on Americans. Did Brennan illegally use foreign spies to spy on Americans, make him testify? He's making the point that we need to investigate how the Russia hacking stuff, that narrative started in the first place. Meaning, you had a situation where for the last 3 years, a narrative has been put on the American public that was fundamentally untrue. And media reported one factoid, one story after the next, pursuant to a story that was, for the most part, wholly fabricated. The FISA warrant that these guys were generating, the FISA warrant, they were supposed to be honest with the judge. Now, 97% of FISA warrants are approved. Did you know that? Like the secret court, 99.7%
are approved?
Yes. Because they're not two people in the room. The only person in the room is the prosecutor, and he's telling the judge. And they said by law, he's supposed to be honest with the judge and telling him everything. Well, in this case, with the Mueller case, the information they used was a dossier that was paid for by the Hillary Clinton, going to a foreign government in order to get information to attack Donald Trump with. Paid for by Hillary Clinton. It was dodgy at best. They knew there wasn't anything to it, and they still presented it to the judge as if it was a legitimate source of information in order to get the FISA warrant on Donald Trump. Now, Rand Paul is like, how the hell did this take place? And why did this take place? And then all of the leaking that took place afterwards. He's asking, did Brennan illegally spy on America? And
CIA.
Talking about this thing on Trump, meaning these guys were spying on the Trump campaign using somewhat dodgy information in order to do this. The question becomes, did the Obama administration allow this? Did elements of the Obama administration allow this for them to literally spy on the campaign of an opposition leader? If this was the Republicans doing this, heads would have exploded. But this is Democrats, and they hate Trump, and so the media doesn't look at this. The media gives this a blind eye. Rand Paul is making the point, shouldn't we investigate this too? This looks extremely bad. Is this something that we want to replicate for 3 years of our life involved in a conspiracy theory? You think he's right? And Rand Paul is a Republican. I don't agree with Rand Paul on like 58% of what he might say. I agree with him on the foreign policy stuff. But from the standpoint of a lot of stuff, you know, when he gets into the loony bin of get rid of the Department of Education and all this other stuff, he loses me. But
can we really get them to testify?
Yeah. Brennan has testified before Congress before and lied to Congress.
I think that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. It's like, make him testify to what end?
Well, the difference is if he's going to be prosecuted for lying. That's the catch. It only works if you prosecute him for lying, if he knows he's going to be prosecuted for lying. And we have, by the way, prosecuted people for lying recently. If I'm not mistaken, Cohen is being thrown in prison for lying. So, you know, it's like the FBI asks you questions, and then you don't remember each and everything that you said prior, and they catch you, and it's like, oh, he lied. Now we're going to put him in jail for lying. But in this case, yeah, he's right. Brennan should testify. These guys who were lying and pushing this stuff should testify. I mean, I think it's a big deal. There's been a massive psyop that's been played on the American population for the last 3 years. And if it's important, if determining whether or not Donald Trump colluded with Russia, then it should be just as important to determine how did this narrative get perpetrated on the American audience where a president was accused of working with a foreign government to undermine this country when all of it was based on a dodgy PP dossier. I think Rand Paul is onto something. I think this is I think he's right.
Yeah, Joker J says Rand Paul is half sane, half tinfoil hat.
That's all right. Like when him and Ron Paul starts talking about like foreign policy, they're on point. Like, why are in these wars, this chemical strike they're using, social media to talk about this? Like, he talks about that in similar ways to Tulsi Gabbard. Even more so. Like, he's more hawkish on being anti-interventionist. You like the way I use that, right? I use the words in an obvious way. But he's more, like, let's stay out of these affairs. We need to focus on our own thing, that type of stuff. But he gets a little bit loony when he gets into, you ask him, like, you believe in private property, yes. Does that mean that black should be excluded from your business? Well, I mean, I'm just saying we probably like he gets mealy mouth because his ideology runs up against reality. But in this case, the ideology is right. I would argue. You know, stay out of those affairs of nations. All right. You have anything else?
That's all we got.
All right. That's all right. Fair enough.
Let's do our last recap before we head out. Or our last announcements again.
Let's do the announcements.
All right. Meeg 2005 says, "Who is this lady?" I think you're referring to me. Meeg, this lady is Miss JT. Thank you, Trudy. Yes, my name's Aisha. I am
Who's this woman?
Progressive Soapbox. So just as we come to a close, the patron appreciation spiel again, and then we'll do our announcements that we did at the beginning of the show. Of course, today is patron or contributor appreciation. This show is done weekly in an effort to give patrons the opportunity to submit topics as a thank you for all of the things that they contribute to the country, to the channel.
To the country, yeah.
To the country,
to the
channel. I don't think I said country. I think I was going to say contribute again. What are you doing to the screen?
What?
It's messing with me.
Focus on your task. That's how I feel when you guys are out there playing with the dogs and you singing in the other room, and I'm trying to like isolate my thoughts. So
once a week we come on and we do a patron appreciation show. If you are a patron, make sure that around Thursday or Friday you log into Patron and look for the reminder posts, and you can submit your topic suggestions there. Because this shouldn't be limited to patrons only, if you are contributing through Streamlabs, PayPal, or Super Chat and would like to submit a topic suggestion, please feel free to do that. You can email it to him directly or send your topic suggestion with your contribution. One of the announcements that we made this morning is that there are a lot of people that give in ways outside of Patreon, and we're trying to find a way to get them the same exclusive content. If you did not know that today's appreciation show is going to be taken down from YouTube and available only to patrons, that is the patron appreciation show. But if you are a PayPal donator or a Streamlab donator, you don't have access to that. And so one of the things that we created this week that's going up this weekend is an exclusive Facebook group for member content. So the patron appreciation shows will be dropped in there. So if you are donating, reach out to us. Let us know that you want access to the exclusive contributor content, and I will send you the link because it is a private Facebook group and you'll have to answer a couple of questions. We'll verify you, and that way you get exclusive content access as well. So that was the announcement this morning. Somebody said, Jamarl, what are you doing? He is fucking with me. Miss JT, could you do a theme show for Jamal's channel? No. What is the method that best gets you the most from the contribution? Probably PayPal.
Streamlabs. Yes, Streamlabs.
PayPal or Streamlabs, because if you go through Patreon, it's nice because it's a monthly. So if you're not familiar with Patreon, you can say, I like the content. I want to donate X amount of dollars a month. And it's going to be an automatic recurring donation that goes directly to Jamal. Unfortunately, there is a small percentage that Patreon, the platform, takes out from that. But if you're not a patron, consider being a patron. The good thing about Patreon is that if, like before, Jamal is demonetized, patron appreciation and patron contributions continue. He was demonetized before for a month.
Yeah, that was painful.
It kind of hurt because this is his full-time job now, and so Patreon is great. However, they do take a little off the top.
And believe it or not, it's not just a month. Like when YouTube demonetized the content, it went for over a month because it takes you all the way down to 0, and so all of that has to be replenished. And so it's like you start from making a certain amount, let's say several thousand, to 0. And then when you build back up, it's like slowly like crawling back up and still not getting to where it was before. Yeah, it hits you in the knees.
Could you get that off of this? Oh, that's on the screen. So, if you are interested in...
I need an apology.
No, you have something over top of my face. It's very distracting for me trying to do my spiel. So if you're interested in that information, let us know. Also,
it's distracting, but not stopping. It's not. Stop it.
If you're not a contributor, then
Be a professional, man.
we understand that you want to support the channel. So
Like
being here, could you stop?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Go ahead.
I'm done. I'm clocking out. I'm not fighting you to get this shit done with. I'm done. Say what you got to say so I can go walk the dog.
Go ahead.
I'm done.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Go ahead, babe.
This is my done face.
Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt.
That's it. It's Patron Appreciation Show. Consider being a patron. If you can't give monetarily, like, share, subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate you just for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusive content is going to be available to those that are contributing.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd like, we might push that to a website later, but right now it's just going to be on Facebook because that's an easier way to get it up quickly. There was another announcement.
Yeah.
As you guys know, Jamarl is really into...
Well, actually, there was another one, but it was this one.
Yeah, I know. I was doing the intro for that.
The New Mexico?
We already talked about that this morning.
But this is a secondary announcement. This was part of the announcement.
Part of the announcement earlier. New Mexico, or go do this one. New Mexico becomes...
New Mexico is becoming the 24th state to decriminalize marijuana. It's not legalization, but it's still a big change in marijuana policy. 24th state, nearly. That means nearly half of the state, or half of the country, has pot. That is some gray area of legality, with another half that doesn't. That is untenable. Like, imagine that for a moment. You're in one state, you step over the line, and all of a sudden you can be prosecuted. When you step into the other state, not so much. And all of this is under the guise of one country. This is somewhat problematic. This has to change. So the propensity is for it to be moving in this direction. So good job, New Mexico. If I had to give anybody advice, and I'm not person to give advice on stocks, because, you know, I'm not proficient in that. But I would say, considering what Canada has done, considering what is the the direction that the United States is going, personally, that is the stock I would invest in. It just seems like if the country is going to the point where it's going to be legalized, Canada is huge, and they've legalized. Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General of the United States who was completely against pot while he was Attorney General and could do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
So, you know, this kind of tide of history shifting is real. What are you still laughing?
That's my motherfucking man.
All right. So let's and one last thing. I've been working on a separate show. You know, I get into like the woo-woo stuff and the odd stuff and the interesting stuff. And so I'm going to have a channel that is specific to that woo-woo stuff.
Woo-woo.
Woo-woo, yeah. That's what, what's his name used to call it?
Woo-woo. Isn't that a song?
It's a song, but this is a little slightly different.
Tell me, can you woo-woo?
All right, so this is the intro to the new channel. It takes a little bit longer to do shows on the channel because it's not like straightforward. Like, it's not where you're just kind of having a conversation. It's more so trying to present, and that's not necessarily something I'm overly familiar with. But so let's look at the intro.
Darren, oh, go ahead.
That is so cool. I love that. I love that. Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Just to be clear, it's only going to be shown one time.
What do you mean?
During the intro of the show, you're not going to play it.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to be played like 5 times. It's like, that's interesting.
Donna Levy says, is this an alien show? Not really an alien show, but...
some of everything. Like, it's aliens, it's... So think of it as sci-fi and real life. Meaning, some of the stuff deals with, like, UFOs and some of the stories that come out with UFOs. Some of it deals in an investigative capacity with the UFO stuff. Meaning trying to talk to people who are close to a particular issue, talking to experiencers, going to sites to try to either validate or invalidate certain experiences. Meaning if they're saying, hey, you can go to this sea SETI, and if you do XYZ, this will take place. Then I'm going to go and do XYZ and sit with an open mind and see what takes place. The goal of the show is, I just want to know. It's called Black Box because I have no idea what's in the black box.
What's going to be coming out of that thing.
Yeah. And so the show deals with nonfiction and it deals with real life stuff. So yeah, going to, maybe psychics, going to seances, going to haunted houses, going to all sorts of stuff planned for the show. The goal of it is almost like taking somewhat of a mind has experiences with this stuff, so not necessarily to discount it, but at the same token being so skeptical of it simultaneously, and looking at the various phenomena, the various events that people go and the things that they say, and seeing if taken by their own value set, whether or not it can present itself. I just want to know if it's true. Hell, even if it's just whispered to me, I want to know if it's true. So, but this also gets into sci-fi stuff. So things like Star Trek, things like, comic books, where you start asking these deeper questions of what does it mean and what does it look like in a real world phenomena? Meaning, I'll use the Superman example. Superman throwing the missiles into the sun. Like, do you honestly believe that the United States will be okay with an alien coming to the planet and ripping the missiles away and throwing them into the sun? And what is the response of the United States? And does that mean that Superman is essentially an authoritarian and every other government of the planet is subordinate to Superman in this case because Superman has just decided to take an act that would have been an act of war in any other capacity? Like, this is fucking phenomenal. But the movie didn't deal with this. Like, the Superman movie Sunman just dealt with Superman fighting Sunman. And I'm looking at this like, wait a minute. He's just stolen the missiles. He's invaded sovereign territory to rip something away from the countries. And why stop at nuclear missiles? Regular weapons could cause a damage too.
How far are you going to go?
How far do you go? The Superman
when you can go, how far are you
fist.
going to go when you can go as far as you want to?
Yeah. That's fucking fascinating, man. So
that's the black box.
That's the black box. Those are stories that I want to get into. Not Adventure Star Trek. Like getting into the Discovery stuff, like how preposterous some of the stories are in Discovery and all. Or even how epic, like taking the colloquialism of what's, I think it was Stanley Kubrick, the things that are anything that's any sufficiently advanced technology will come across as magic to somebody who's not necessarily trained in regards to looking for it. And expanding that to any extraterrestrial race that has sufficiently advanced technology will come across as God. And using that to kind of make this allegory to scientists who have so proficient in the things that they know, still searching for something more. Because at the end of Discovery, that's what it's getting. Like in multiple shows on Discovery, they get into this thing that these guys are hard-nosed scientists, these guys are skeptics, these guys, understand the universe in a way it's put together in ways that people have never understood before, and yet they're still searching for something more. When they're looking for this red angel, part of that looking for this red angel is this belief that they're guiding us, they're leading us. And there's a part of it where she loses faith when she finds out who it is. Like, oh, I love this stuff. Like, this is why I really want to have the Black Box episode, because the political part makes sense for politics where people will look at this stuff and think of this stuff in a political sense of, so you can have that conversation. But they're deeper metaphysical conversations that take place. I usually have them in 420s, but fuck it, let's just have a video.
Yeah, people are saying, stop doing spoilers for Star Trek, please. We binge watched season 2 last night until 4 a.m. So he's I'm
in it, man.
Discovery,
I'm in it.
Crack right now. So
yeah,
Skip Rock Jamal is having a nerdgasm right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's exactly what's happening. But I think we're done because the dogs are crying.
All right, guys. I always appreciate doing these shows. I always enjoyed the shows.
Oh, when does the new show start? Thank you, Andrew Church, because
I'm trying to do
it. It's still in the works. It's
so
the project.
I've gotten to the point where everything, the scenes and everything else are straight. Writing the show is proving more difficult than I realized. Because it's not, like when I do the show, I have a bunch of stuff in my head and I try to set a goal of saying, all right, keep this to 10 minutes and give your spill. And so there's a challenge associated with it. It's almost like you're walking on a tightrope as you're trying to make your arguments. And sometimes it doesn't work right and I have to do the video over again. But it's me talking as if I was talking to somebody else, kind of an explanation, but in a little bit more dramatic way. But this show is not like that. The show would have to be more scripted. Like it has to be more polished the way that it goes. And the show's not live, so it's not like Sorry, you're ruining my show, man. And you're sneezing into the mic. There's when we're on the radio show, there's like a cough button. No, seriously, there's like these little dials, and there's a button that's like that kind of stuff. But I don't know the exact date of the show. I will give a heads up on when it's coming out, but it's soon. As soon as I write the thing. And some of the stuff has to be scripted, because some of it is like the Superman thing will have to be a think piece. Discovery stuff would be somewhat of a criticism of Discovery.
Analysis kind of thing.
Black Box is not a specific thing, even though it's under an umbrella of, like I said, science fiction and non-science fiction. Like, I think it's an interesting mix. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'll be very clear on what's what. Like, this is a real thing as opposed to this is a fake thing. I am looking forward to going to some of the things like conventions. I would love to go to a UFO convention. I am enamored by that. Like, don't get me wrong, some of it I'm like, that guy's so full of it. I used to binge watch that stuff, and I came away with it like sometimes I'm like, that guy's so full of shit. Like, why don't they know that he's full of shit? He's like, there was one guy I distinctly remember this, because I'm like, I can't believe this guy wrote a book, and that these guys listen to him. Me doing politics, I'm cynical. I'm skeptical of a lot of stuff. And the guy says something like, he says, I'm in my car, and I see a craft. Now, most people, when they see a craft, are terrified. Just as human beings, it's like, if you were 30 years old and you saw a dog for the first time, you'd be like, get that fucking thing away from me. Like, it's a threatening thing because nothing in your experience allows you to understand what that is. When you saw that warthog that time and you started running in the other direction.
That didn't happen.
We were in Kenya and this warthog comes up and I'm like, I'm trying to get the picture. And she's like, oh my God, that thing is going to murder me.
No, that's not what happened at all. You shouldn't be lying to people like that.
It was something like that. But I guess my point is,
like that, but it's fun.
When you encounter that stuff, especially something that's so surreal, so over the top, your response is not usually, I'm a hard ass. It's usually just fear. It's just a natural response. He says, I see a craft over my car and it yanks me out of my window and it pulls me up. And he said, it hurt so bad I was angry. I was like, how dare you pull me out of my window like this? And I'm like,
you're a fucking
get the fuck out of here. Yeah. It's like, get out of here. Get out of here.
I can see my dad doing that because he's like the most badass person
Whatever.
I've ever met.
Your dad is badass to other human beings.
Aliens coming, he'd be like, I don't know. Like
none of that.
He would be punching people in the face.
Punching
aliens in the face.
I don't believe that
Like,
at
if they
all.
tried to come and abduct him, he would not stand for that shit.
I don't believe that at all. I'm sorry. And I definitely don't believe that guy. But that guy wrote books. He wrote books on that. And he's at a conference telling people that. That would be me raising my hand, like, wait a minute. I mean, are you telling me that you were like, I would be the one who would try to get to the root of it, and it would be videotaped. And like Kerry Kasparov, like attacking Jimmy Dore, they'd be attacking me at the UFO conference. I'm like, be like, I have questions. It's like,
all right, it's been a great show.
And then what if you fuck around and get abducted?
And
then I have to come on the show. They grabbed me.
Thanks everybody for
my ass and I was fighting them, trying to get away from me.
The Patron Appreciation Show.
Like, I'm a married man. Get away from me.
What?
That's what was happening. I'd be fighting them off, babe. They wouldn't be able to do that shit to me. I have a wife at home. You would not violate me in these ways, sir. That's what I would be saying.
All right. So if you like the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the work through Patreon, PayPal, Super Chat, Streamlabs.
That's pretty much.
P.O. Box is down below. Check us out next week for the monthly or the weekly Patron Appreciation.
And guys, thank you. Yeah. Really, honestly, I really do appreciate you guys assisting with the content. And yeah, feel free to send your stories, the things that you want to talk about.
Yes, please, please, please. If you are a patron, thank you. Or a contributor, thank you. Please share your topic suggestions with us, though, because we need the content for today's show. If not, we end up with shit like this. And nobody wants that.
Well, they do. Otherwise, there would be another channel called Black Box. All right, guys. Thank you. You all have a good Sunday. I may or may not see you later today.
Oh, wait. Can I take your hat off? Somebody says Jamarl bald.
No, I'm not bald.
He's not bald?
Yeah.
Show the world your hair. Okay, we're done.
I might do that for another thing. It's like,
for your 20,000, you should do a show with no hat and no cardigan. Boom.
I've already hit 20,000.
I mean, but you haven't done anything for it yet.
But I've already hit it. It would be a false thing. It's like a second marriage.
You do it for 22,000.
I'm nearly at 22,000.
We'll get ready.
But that's not a really round number. That's arbitrary. If I get 1 million subscribers, I'll take my head off.
I'd like to help you guys with research. How email your topic suggestions.
Just email your topic suggestions. Yeah, I have people who send emails. I've had people who sent emails to me going back all the way back to like my early shows, like 1,000. Like Jeff Kuntz has been with me forever. HB has been sending stuff forever. Crozet Owls, she's started sending stuff like maybe in the last year or so, but she's also been sending a lot of research stuff. So people send research stuff all the time. It helps. It really does. When I get up in the morning, the first thing I do, I'm checking my like thing and I'm looking at the stories and I'm like, maybe, and usually what I end up doing is putting stories I'm interested in on Twitter so I can go back to it and research it later. Because usually what happens is it pivots me in a direction. Like, so it's not so much, so somebody says, hey, this is taking place. And it's like, okay. And so it's like you read the initial story and it's like, okay, maybe there's something in here that I didn't know before. And then it's like, so it pivots your mind in a certain way of research. And so it's like, all right, now I'm researching in this direction. I'm kind of like looking out at the world and, you know, that type of thing. It helps. It does help.
He's only one person, so he can only cover so many different avenues. What's your email address?
It's at the bottom.
It's in their description box. So is the P.O. box if anybody wants to
Everything is in the description box.
Candy. No, don't send candy. Nobody's going to eat it.
Nobody's going to eat the candy. Get some candy, little girl. Get some candy, little man. I don't want to be date raped with some kind of weird candy.
I told you when I got in that Uber with the rapey Uber guy. Well, not the rapey Uber guy, but the crazy Uber guy.
Yeah.
He had candy and he's like, do you want some candy? And I was like, no offense, but does anybody really eat the candy that you offer them when you get in your car? He started laughing. He's like, no, not really. I was like, I don't want your fucking candy.
It just seems bad, man. Like, why? Like, there's things that you can offer. Don't misunderstand. I mean, I understand why. Like, when we were abroad, they would have all sorts of stuff. They would have these tricked out Ubers. They try to get people to give tips and all this other stuff. Candy, that's a little rough. That's a little rough. I mean, if I got in the car with a woman and she was offering candy, don't even think I would take it, in that sense.
If it was a woman?
Yeah, offering candy. Actually, it depends on how attractive she is.
You're an idiot.
She's gonna hide. I'm gonna eat this candy. Maybe she date rapes me later on. That's like a weird stuff.
Do you need to get laid that bad? That would be my next conversation. Maybe I'll get date raped. What the fuck? I'm done.
Did you see, there used to be this thing on HBO called Taxi Cab Confessions, and they would have the people. I used to love that show. And the stuff, there are some of those things that were so poignant. Like, some of them were trashy. Like, the woman is like in the back and is like giving the guy a blowjob. There's that. But there's these other aspects of humanity that were more poignant and it was sadder. There was one woman who was like, who would want me? I don't know why anybody would want me. I mean, a guy tried to have sex with a guy and the guy was like just this kind of sad case of, she hates herself. But she doesn't hate herself just because she hates herself. She hates herself because of the stuff around her. Some degree, like, don't get me wrong, she may have somewhat of a pessimistic outlook, but that outlook was somehow generated by her environment. Like, it wasn't purely coming from her. Like, some of those things were fascinating in some of the situations of humanity. Some of them a little bit more trashy, but some, you know, it's a good show. All right, guys.
Make sure you hit the like button before you leave.
Y'all have a good one. I may see you guys later. Thank you all for for coming with the Patreon appreciation.
Thank you for appreciating
and thank you for all the time. For all the help with the channel. So, thanks all. Peace out. Peace out. Peace.